4:30, let's call the DuBois County Council meeting to order. Let's start out with the pledge, if anyone joins. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So Sandy, it looks like everyone's here, so we have a quorum tonight. The first thing we'll start out with is the approval of the meeting minutes for April 25th. It's sent out to us. I don't know if anyone has any additions or corrections to those minutes.
There's a couple little things that those did get changed on the printed version, right, Sandy?
Yes, they are changing.
Does anyone want to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Charmaine has made a motion, and I have a second.
I'll second.
Becky second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? First thing on the agenda is Commissioner Promise, and he's going to talk about health.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good afternoon, and I appreciate Sandy getting me early on the agenda. I've got a cup of water and sewer meeting I need to get to. I'd love to stay around for the rest of your meeting, but I will have to move on. I sent you an email earlier today. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read it, but at our May 2nd commissioner meeting, we created a position referred to as the health coordinator. A new employee position. And so this afternoon, I'm simply asking for you to fund that position, adopt or approve a salary ordinance, et cetera, for that position. The health coordinator position will be a full-time, 35-hour position with full benefits, and it will be classified as a PAT 3. And Marky has put together a job description, which I attached to the email that you received earlier today. And this job description is basically, it's based on the job description that was provided to us by OKRA. In April, just to give you a little background, in April, a small committee, Becky and Charmaine, myself and Marky, we kind of looked at how to set this all together, put this all together, and our preference was to have a part-time position, to hire a part-time person to do this job. And Okra was actually suggesting part-time or a full-time employee that would work part-time at this position, but they were suggesting 30 hours. And 30 hours is not part-time in DuBois County. We have a policy that 30 hours is a full-time employee. That's based mainly on the ACA requirements that we provide health insurance to anybody who is employed for 30 hours or more. At that time, I didn't have conclusive information from OKRA yet as to whether or not that was, how they were going to look at that. We wanted to go 28 hours to stay under that 30-hour threshold. But they came back and said, no, it has to be 30. If they're going to participate in and award this grant, their requirement is going to be 30 hours. Hence the request and the approval by the commissioners and the request to set up a full-time 35-hour position for this person. Again, a little background. OKRA, we applied for and received an OKRA grant of $1 million. We are in what they call the second cohort, which will begin, this process will begin on July 1st of this year. And as part of that requirement, we have to have a coordinator in place, an employee that will develop a strategic investment plan, and then to carry out that, the county needs to carry out that strategic investment plan. And for that, we had to set aside 30% of our ARPA funds. We partnered with the city of Jasper, who also set aside 30% of their funds. And so together it's over $3 million that will be of our ARPA funds that will be set aside. And then match that with the $1 million that Okra is providing. There'll be over $4 million that we can then apply toward these strategic investment initiatives that the county will develop. The Okra will also apply or provide $20,000 toward the first year's salary of this person, of this health coordinator. So anyway, the rest of the salary cannot come from the 30% that we're setting aside, but it can come. It is a legitimate expense for ARPA funds that have been set aside or that have already been applied for, and in the what do you call it, the offset lost revenue. Thank you. The lost revenue set aside on those ARPA funds, so it can come from that. So anyway, that's what I'm here for today, to simply ask you to fund that position and to approve a salary ordinance as such. The salary, by the way, that the commissioners are looking at, or the commissioners are recommending, and that actually is a requirement of Okra, is $40,000 for this employee. I think we came up with in the PAT 3 that $22 is a nice round number that will give $40,040. But that helps the auditor's office work with round numbers. So that's what we are recommending. That, of course, is your decision as to how you fund that.
If we do $40,040, it's $1,540 biweekly. 1,540. So what we would have to do is $20,000 would come from the Okra grant. $20,040 would come from the ARPA money.
So.
And then we'd have to do benefits and
Benefits
health
on top of
insurance
that.
with the ARPA funds as well.
That was my question. Are we gonna take all that out of our funds, the health insurance benefit?
Right, so I do have all that lined out. We would move money from the revenue loss line item that we have in other services to personal services, and I have all that lined out if you want that.
So just on the payroll side, would you pay them the $20,000 out of one line item first, or are you gonna split it up like evenly?
It depends when we get the money.
They indicated to me that as soon as we establish the position, we would be funded. The $20,000.
So the thing is the benefits would be, FICA and PERF would be $7,547.54. And health insurance, I estimated using the Title 4D amount, would be $15,332.40 for the year. So those things, we would definitely have to start spending our money because there is no match.
Is that till the end of the year,
For the whole year,
for the entire 12?
for the July to the June.
Depending upon when this person would come on board, and our goal is to have them on board as close as possible to the 1st of July. That's when the whole process starts. And in the second week of July, there is a training session that we would like them to be in position to take part in, put on by Okra.
So the job description says community coordinator. Is that just Du Bois County?
Yes.
Was that what I mean?
Yeah.
I might have missed that part. So we would be heavy with Okra employees in the county because we got Denny Spinner and Neil Elkins. And then this person comes on, we ought to get a lot of funds from them and have that direct pipeline up there if we have a third potentially Du Bois County person in Okra.
For other grants.
Yep.
Have we thought about who's this person gonna work on? Who he or she gonna be his
Under the commissioners. They would report to the
Report to
commissioners.
the commissioners. Okay, and then do we have a physical place for them to work out of?
We haven't definitely determined that as of yet. We're looking at the room downstairs, perhaps, the
Small office?
small office down there. There's, was some discussion with weights and measures and what their needs were and so forth, but yeah, you're right, we would have to find a location, find a place to put a desk.
Because, starting off, that seems like, the commissioners are gonna have to keep this person busy. It doesn't seem like they're gonna, until we get to the training and all that.
Alex Taylor, I believe, from Okra that I've been talking to said, don't worry about that. We'll keep them busy.
Okay.
Because that
We'll
training
keep them
starts
busy.
with, very,
The
next
training
week after.
and just setting up and getting ready to, and learning what it is that they have to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're asking tonight to just fund the position?
Well, I
Fund
have
Position?
the transfer to put the money from other services into personal. That's one thing, and then I have the amended salary ordinance to pay the person, the $15.40 biweekly. And it is, I have it for 1 year. If they go over 35 hours, they're gonna accrue comp time. It will begin on or after July 1st. It'll be funded from both the grant and the ARPA funds for 1 year.
So I guess as the council, we're part of we submitted a resolution to join on, submit this to obtain this $1 million with Jasper. So we don't have any alternative to meet the requirements. We're gonna have to hire this person.
If we want the grants, yes.
Is there any other discussion with the council?
I guess my question is year 2, where are we on that? So when we hire them, are they under the impression that I'm here for 12 months and that's likely it?
They 12 months, yes, that's the impression we would need to give them. Now, in reality, will everything be finished in 12 months? I don't think so. But, I think it's going to be ongoing until, I'm not saying this position will exist, but the process will be ongoing, maybe as long as 2026, because ARPA funds need to be expended by 2026. But they will be under the impression when hired that this is a 1-year position to be evaluated at that time as to what the needs are at that time. The $20,000 from Okra is for 1 year.
Okay.
If we do keep this person additional time, that will be all of us.
And that's something we can use as part of the 1 million.
No. The ARPA funds, yes, but only the portion that is not in that 30%.
So the $40,040, if we decide to give any raises in August, or is this excluded from that, or are we raising, what's the situation?
Well, according to the salary ordinance, they would not get a raise in December.
Because this is
If you
it
guys
for
would
12 months.
decide to continue this person on next July, you could.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been my impression, but, depends on how you set up the salary ordinances this summer after budget and so forth to do that, I guess.
Just to make a point here that, when we applied for the grant, we, under the job description, it said this position is required for the health designation and thus has funding for only 1 year. Rehiring for subsequent years may be negotiated. So they still may give.
Yeah,
That's the way this read anyway.
we can hope for that, but I
I
can't
don't
promise
know,
that.
but it's
I
something.
don't know that anybody can promise that.
And
Yeah.
if we would not use all of our revenue loss money, maybe we could reallocate in the future.
Okay, so which one we want to start out with, or then see if we can.
I would like to do the transfer first to put the money in place before we approve it. The coordinator, I'd like to transfer $20,040, and the benefits, $7,547.54, and the insurance, $15,332.40.
So hearing that, does anyone want to make a motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
Craig made a motion and Doug second. So any other discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
And then amendment to the salary ordinance to pay this person $1,540 biweekly for 1 year. $20,000 will come from the Okra Grant Fund, and $20,040 will come from the ARPA Fund.
So hearing that,
I'll make that motion.
Becky's made a motion to approve that. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Joanne seconded. All in favor, any other discussion, I guess, first? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Sounds like we got it in
You
place.
got it all in place?
I think so.
So thanks for coming in.
We just don't have the 20,000 yet.
Thank you, and Marky's got the hiring process ready to go. It will be a tight fit, I think, to get the person in place by July 1, but we're gonna make it real.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks for.
All right, thank you,
Thanks,
thank you. Hi.
Okay. So, the next is the abatement for Sanders Processing, and Kent Sanders, is he here tonight? Kent, could you come up and introduce yourself?
I'm Ken Sander. I'm a co-owner of Sander Processing and Sander Family Meat Market. Sander Processing is our business in Celestine. It's been there for almost 20 years, and then we built the second place in St. Anthony Sander Family Meat Market last year. We applied for an abatement for machinery. Just came to you guys to see what we could do with that. That's something that's been helping me out with that. So.
Okay. So the abatement committee has reviewed the abatements, and so I have no questions for it. I think you could, the way I understand it, everything's in line. So do we need to have any discussion at any time?
I would just like to know how it's going.
It's going very well. I think what we had talked about right away was being able to hire 25 people. We're up to 40 right now. So we were able to actually increase our employment more than what we are. We are pretty well capable to run the building full capacity right now. Just right after we opened our processing in May last year, we opened the retail office. So we've been at it right out of here, and we're able to pretty well fully staffed and being able to run it. And the retail is going very, very well for us. But I can't complain so far.
That's good.
Yeah, well, I wanted to bring something to light here while you're here. I was going over the paperwork. I'm Angie Eastwood, the Boise County Assessor. Whenever the council approved the abatement last year, the maximum cost that was approved was $473,529. When you guys filed your personal property return and your CF1 this year, your actual cost is $590,783. So only the council approved a maximum amount of cost of $473.
Okay.
So I will have to adjust your paperwork to apply the abatement to just that amount of cost. Yeah. So there's gonna be, it's not gonna be totally abated off.
Okay.
So there's gonna be a portion like $46,900 that is not going to be abated off.
Okay.
So that portion will still be taxable. So, just wanted to bring that up.
Thanks.
Okay.
Will that paperwork have to be changed prior to, did we
Excuse me?
Will that paperwork have to be revise before we approve it tonight?
It's actually on the Form 103 ERA, which is, it's not really on the CF1. You can go ahead and approve it because the amount that's on here is the maximum amount.
Okay,
I think it's whenever the actual abatement amount was calculated, they used the wrong figure. Instead of using the maximum amount, they took the total costs. So
all right.
I think you're fine going ahead and, approve the CF form the way it is.
So the max should be 473,529?
Yes, according to what was approved last year. According to the SB one, that was filed.
Okay,
And the ordinance are the.
So the deduction, 236,313, that's good or not good? Because I have I have that. 103. So this amount right here is not good or is good?
That is not. The deduction will be 189, 412, depending on something like that,
Okay.
depending on rounding.
And Alina knows this, you think? Or
Excuse me?
does Alina know that amount?
No, I put that on.
Okay.
I'll be adjusting it and I'll send a correction out for you so you know what the change would be, so.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that'd be fine. I've got to know this part. The only thing I would request is in the future, you come in April into the meeting instead of
Okay.
waiting till
Yeah,
May. So that would help us out.
Yes. I thought I was on it, but I was behind. So yes, I'll try next year to get it sooner.
I think with it just being the first year, and I
Right.
think the CPA that's working with you, it was kind of new for them too, so I think hopefully next year will go smoother, everybody kind of knows what's
Knows what
expected
to
and
do.
knows what to file, when to file it.
Yes, yes.
Got a year under your belt in a lot of ways.
Can I say something too? It's, I think it's exciting you hired more people than you thought, because when I go to your place, I see the same employees for, I don't know if I've been going there 20 years, but at least 15. And I think it says something about either you're a good boss or you're paying pretty well. Because you're keeping a lot of the same people outside of your family, which I don't know any business really doing that. So that says something for you guys.
Thank you. We haven't, I don't want to say we haven't had turnover because we have to get started, but it seems like once we get them there, they like, we get them to stay usually. That's how we were able to increase our workforce, because we split sales team in half basically. So it was almost like picking a kickball team. We went back and forth and pick people, and then to be able to add like that, it did really well for us. So.
That's great. For our family, we really like having you guys to see the meetings.
If you haven't been there, you need to check it out. It's really nice. It's very nice.
We got some new neighbors from up north. We sent them straight down to Sanders. Down there, lots here now.
any other comments or questions for Ken? Otherwise, thank you for coming in and
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for your success. Well,
okay, so then we have to approve this abatement, so. And
The property owner is in substantial compliance, or the property owner is not in substantial compliance, or other. That's your three choices.
anybody, I guess I'll make a motion that it's in compliance.
I'll second that.
Craig seconded, any other discussion? I'll entertain. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You understand it better.
Cindy, what was that amount? 473?
529.
And the actual abated amount would be, I I have it written down. $189,412.
Okay, then the next debate that we have here tonight is Fisher Farms Natural Foods. Are you representing?
Me?
Yes, or who's representing?
I'm not representing Fisher Farms Natural Foods.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know that they were supposed to come.
I have Joseph Fisher on, that's what I was told, so maybe he's not here yet.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, we're running a little ahead here, so. I guess while we're waiting, Angie, is there any, I think you and I discussed this a little bit, it probably does not meet, it meets it, but it's under the value that we had asked for. Can you tell me that, or could you explain this a little bit? Is there
When
any
looking
change?
at their paperwork, it appears that they're anticipating an additional amount of equipment that they're going to be purchasing, because their abatement runs through December 31st, 2023. So they still have a time period where they can still purchase equipment that would qualify for the abatement. They originally filed for $200,000 for manufacturing equipment and $15,000 of IT equipment, which was approved. This year, what they filed on is $15,000 of cost that they added of this equipment that they are anticipating buying. And it appears that it's under the manufacturing equipment and not, I thought maybe it was the IT equipment because the amount's matched, but it's not, it's under the manufacturing equipment. So they've, at this time, as of January 1st, 2022, they bought $15,000 of the $200,000 of equipment that they originally anticipated buying. And it doesn't appear that they have purchased any of the IT equipment that they originally thought they were buying, but they're still within their time period
Okay.
I think it started May of 21 and it goes through 12/31/2023. So they still have this year to acquire equipment that would still qualify. Or actually, 2 years actually. But their return here, this year is kind of in a unique situation where their total cost of their equipment for this location and for this entity is below the $80,000 personal property exemption. So it's going to be exempted off anyhow. But the $15,000, this $15,000 worth of equipment is going to start its first year of the 4-year abatement. So say next year they purchase, or this year say they purchase another $150,000 of equipment. So then that $15,000 will be in its first year, and then next year that $150,000 will be in its first year of the 4-year, and the $15,000 will be in its second year. So it's per purchase. It's not for the years. It's not for just 4 years period, and that's it. It starts whenever the equipment was bought.
Okay, I follow you.
So that makes sense. So I would anticipate that they're gonna have more equipment when they file next year, there'll be more equipment. But
Kent, you might be able to speak to it a little. Since they moved
Yes,
from the Celestine location down to St. Anthony, they
I just-
probably moved a lot of the truck.
I just texted Diana and she is running behind, so she apologizes. But yeah, they still have a lot of plans of growth. So I'm assuming the $15,000 of manufacturing equipment is what they bought just to get started, that they are planning on buying more and more. And like you said, they can get it, year by year, I think that they will meet it by the time it's supposed to be.
that's kind of like this, which is, it's normal. So,
How many years do they have, Angie?
It's through December 31st of 23 is the abatement period.
Okay.
So they have to have, basically have to have everything bought by January 1st, 2024.
So
Up until that point, up until the maximum amounts, that amount, it would qualify for the abatement.
So if they purchase a little bit at a time, we're gonna stair step it.
Yeah.
If they purchase it all at the end, it'll all be at the end.
It's based on whatever year they purchase it in and the amount they could purchase in that year.
And it's a 4-year abatement.
Yes, that's what.
And it's graduated, isn't it, or, you know, it's like
Yes.
tiered.
The percentages, it's 100, 75, 50, 25. I think
Okay,
it's
so they're,
the same.
they're technically gonna lose, you know, let's say they buy it last year, it'd only be 25% abatement.
You'd start the 4 years then.
It starts
It
when they buy
starts
it.
the date of the purchase.
Oh, okay.
So if they buy some this year, it'll start 4 years, then this will, and then buy some next year, this will be at 3 years, this will be 4 years.
Oh, okay, I follow, okay, I didn't know. Makes sense. So does the council, since she's running away, does the council want to go ahead and the assessing software update by Angie? We wouldn't waste the time.
Yep.
Angie, would you be ready to, since the Fisher's abatement isn't here?
Sure. Okay. So I'm here to discuss my concerns with my current assessing software that we're using to assess properties in DuBois County. There's a few concerns that I have. We've been dealing with some customer service issues as far as getting prompt information back or solutions to issues that we have at times. There's been a few compliance issues here and there that we've had to actually address to them and bring to their knowledge of things that weren't quite being done the way they needed to be. And also, just seemed like the staff is being downsized and the current users in Indiana keep dwindling. Currently, we have, I think, maybe 16 users of the software, and I know of 8 of them that are actively looking at other softwares to replace them. They used to be like the powerhouse. Almost everyone in the state was using, and it's Thomson Reuters or Paris or I don't know. They have various names, but anyhow. So I'm just coming to you kind of to be proactive and kind of share my concerns with what we currently have, and that my fear that in the future that if their clientele keeps dwindling, that we may be forced in the future to switch at some point. And plus we have a certification that's going to be coming up again for softwares that the county uses. They have to go through a state certification. So that starts in July 1st of 2023 and will be completed June 30th of 2025. So that's another area that I'm concerned. Not that they won't get that, not that they can't get certified, but will they go through the certification depending on how many numbers they have, and continue to stay in the Indiana market. They have other markets, other states, and so I'm just kind of coming to you to kind of make you guys aware that there's my concerns, and that I feel like we may be wanting to look at making a switch in the future. And I'm looking at the company that I'm interested in is Exalt. They currently have 72 out of the 92 counties. So it's kind of, number speaks for themselves as far as, who's the leader, who's going to be around, who's going to service software and who's, going to implement all the new legislation and everything, timely and accurately. So,
Current powerhouse?
huh?
The current powerhouse?
Yeah, exactly, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's power in numbers, so. So that's who I'm looking at. This is just the proposal that I've received from them on the cost of converting and what they would, what the cost would be. So this is just to kind of run down the main numbers. I've highlighted the 290. That is 290,000, which is the total cost of the conversion, or would be. That's their proposed amount of the cost of the conversion, which they've offered to spread that among 5 years, so it wouldn't be that huge hit to the county in 1 year. Divide that by 5, it's $58,000 a year, which I feel I would need to add to my current budget. The support fee, the annual support fee would be $51,800. And I feel like I can adjust my current budget to accommodate that, but that annual support fee. Currently, we're paying around $2,100 an annual fee. I don't know how we're getting that rate, because I've talked to many other Thompson Road users, and their fee is a lot more. And typically, I've heard when people converted to Exalt, their support fee was less than what they normally were paying with Thompson Road. So I don't know how we got the good deal. I don't know. I wasn't around when it got implemented. So, but I do feel I could adjust my current budget, because they typically have probably anywhere from 60 to 70,000 left over in my budget. So I feel like I can adjust that to accommodate that increase in the annual fees. So there wouldn't be an increase in my budget for that. Now there is a fee for that Harris or Thomson Reuters would charge to provide the data to Exxon. And I have money in my budget that could cover that. I have $5,000 amount in software upgrade that I could encumber and then have that in there next year, and that would cover that cost. And so that's
Have
what I'm looking at.
the operations or the support maintenance, have you discussed that with any other counties? The cost of the annual maintenance. I mean, is
For
that a
Exalt?
fair number, I guess, for Exalt?
Yeah, it's
I mean, they
comparable
quoted
to others, and depending on your size. I mean, it goes by size of parcels, parcel size. So
Okay.
it's quoted by size of parcel
I
of the
follow.
county.
Will this affect the assessor website or the GIS website? Because we use that a lot. I'm not saying it's bad, do they have anything to do with that? Because I don't know.
The only thing would be, we upload our property record cards to the WTH GIS site annually. I do feel like the Exalt property record card is easier to read and understand to the general public. Seems like the current property record card has a lot of just codes and symbols, and if you don't really know what that means, it can be a little confusing, or not really knowing what you're looking at. But that would really probably be the only thing that would affect the county's GIS website.
I notice a difference between counties. It seems like you're on top of it. They're updated all the time. If you look at Pike or Davie, sometimes they're
Like what's up to
the
it.
GIS and the assessor website, if you want to check on land parcel transfers, our site's really quick.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
just
the PRCs are only updated once a year.
Mhm.
But the actual data on GIS, it updates, I think almost nightly. I
We
don't
do
know.
nightly on
I
our
was gonna ask
side.
you
That's
if
our
it was-
side.
Yeah, I think they update like the actual ownership and any kind of transfer, that happens on a daily basis, like
Yeah.
Sandy says.
I just didn't know if this company had anything to do with it, but.
No,
That's
no,
our
this
side.
company would be strictly, from my use for the assessor's office use. And producing property record cards to be put on them.
Probably not a lot of offices or software, is it?
There's another one, it's called Guts, and there's just a handful of people that use that. I haven't really looked into that, just because I feel more comfortable going with numbers. And I know of a lot of assessors that have switched to them, and they've been very happy with it. And it's similar to our current software, not exactly, but it's, I would feel like it would be a pretty smooth transition, so.
The only question I have is, and I probably should ask Ed, it does go back and forth with our software,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we're staying with MVP, so.
Yes,
And actually, this is Ed Kerner, he's the representative from Exxon, that he came to be here with me tonight. So, and Ed brought up a comment when we were at the commissioners meeting that the state requires any software to be able to integrate with another software, so that the assessor's office can be on a software and another, auditor, treasurer can be on a different software, and they're required to be able to interface and interact and integrate between each other, so that would not be, be an issue. And they, they are, they do have their own tax system also, so if at some point, if they the treasurer ever felt like they needed to do a change, they would have that, which they wouldn't have to go to them, but it would be an option too.
So it'd be fully integrated between the one company if you wanted to.
Yeah, that would
So
be an option.
they share data between each other.
Mhm. But, they have the tax side too, if that ever, would come to be. But, I'm not looking at doing this year, I'm actually looking at possibly doing it next year. And that's why I'm coming to you to kind of give you a little heads up that I may be switching my budget around a little bit and maybe adding the conversion cost in there, and then we can decide at our budget meeting if it was, and I know, Ed, you had talked about deferring the payment a year or something, depending on whenever we would convert. So they're real good about working with the counties and the budgets.
The perfect scenario is as soon as they roll their values to the auditor is the best time to do it. We've had people wait 10 months in the year and it's a mess because of the fact the number of corrections they have to make. When we do values, it is according to the state manual. The state manual is the values that we use. I'm not going to pick on ProVal, but they do not use the exact same manuals. So there are some values that are often things that will have to be corrected. You visited, as far as the property record cards go, we have an agreement with WTH. So whenever you guys want them, it doesn't have to be once a year. It could be weekly or whatever. It's whatever the county wants. And you mentioned Davies and that's their elected officials' decision not to update that as often as the auditor stuff here goes. But I put some information together for you guys. You can take a look at it. Yeah, I would. It should be one for the auditor as well. There should be 8 of them. But what the first stuff is actually about the company, some brochures, and one on the actual software. The last part of it is our customers. And I don't say call this county or that county, call any of them on that list. I guarantee you they're getting the best support that any company gets. I've been at this 34 years. I'm a former auditor and a former county councilor. So I know where you're setting and what you're facing. But anyway, that'll give you some ideas. I may be retiring at the end of the year, so you may have somebody next year other than me. I actually did a
Yeah, get sold and handles.
I actually did a 16-year sentence with the company that they're currently with.
Yeah.
So the funny thing of it is they've got, and Angie mentioned, they're getting rid of some key people that have been very helpful with, I know for sure, the CAMA side. And a matter of fact, we picked them up to it that actually did support on the assessor stuff. You know, I'm not saying they aren't going to get state certified, but at a certain point, they can't afford to. The money isn't there. To use an example, I could come up with some others. You guys are around 40,000 parcels, right? Roughly. And Vigo County, who is 1.5 times your size, they're around 60,000 parcels. They're paying $75,000 a year in support. And she's paying 21, is that right?
Yeah.
So I've only run into this in one other county, and that was Washington County, where their support is lower than ours. Something has happened along the way. Somebody liked you guys a lot or something, I don't know. But I know that Spencer County, if I'm not mistaken, is paying more than you guys are as well. And they're much smaller counties. But there are, I can tell you, not counting Angie, there are 7 other counties that are looking at it right now. The map on the back of the first thing, you can't keep up to date. I can tell you there's several counties now on there that are currently our customer. But that's all I've got to say. It's you guys' decision, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
So are you that good of a salesman, or is your product that superior?
I'm pretty good. No, the product, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been with 3 companies. And this is the best CAMA product. We just came out with our tax software. I think this is the 2nd year for it, and we have 10 counties. It'll be tweaked and it'll work as well as the CAMA software does. They had no plans of going any further than the CAMA software until they got the reaction they did. So, and they're also developing financials. Cash book, which is mostly used by the treasurer, will be out. It's in beta right now. The rest of the financial software will be out January of 24.
Can you quickly explain that the coordination you're saying between the auditor and the treasurer?
They have to pass, she has to pass values especially to her. And they pass things back like deeds, transfers, so forth. So it's interaction.
There's certain things that the auditor can change for a property, and there's things that I can change for the property. And so the softwares have to integrate and that's me. Otherwise, it just, the information isn't shared.
They pass information back and forth. We're required by state certification. That's one of the tests. We'll have to be able to communicate with MVP. We have to communicate with Loud. We have to communicate with Guts, and vice versa. They have to communicate with us as well. So the software is there. You do not get certified unless you meet every one of those requirements. And the same thing with WTH, pictometry, who takes aerial photographs. WTH is your GIS. We work with them in a lot of counties. And if you take a look at that list of our current counties, in the parentheses at the bottom of each one of those counties is, what's in parentheses there is what tax system they have. So you'll be able to see, we're working with every tax system there is.
Would this, I mean, at some point, would this require an update then of the software that the?
I would think so unless they come out with something.
I mean, like he said, each component has to pass state certification, and they come and they test it on site. They come here and they'll go to them and they come to us and they'll see that it's passed.
They go to all 92 counties. I mean, they hit every one of them, whatever companies they're with, and they have to be able to communicate. The perfect scenario for her to switch, like I said, is after she rolls to the auditor, which happens, what, the 1st of August?
July,
End of July?
beginning of July.
Beginning of July. That's the perfect time for her to do it, but I think she wants to go through the budget process. What I have told her, if she has you guys' approval, whether I'm here or not, and I know they'll agree to this. Let's say you guys say, yeah, we're gonna take care of it next year's budget. They will go ahead and convert her data, do everything, and will not bill it until January the following year.
24.
Yes, yes, they will. Like if she does it next year and you guys say, yeah, we're gonna approve the money or whatever, they'll go ahead and do everything and get them trained, get them up and running, and they won't bill until January 24 then.
So it'd be turnkey.
Well, I mean, they would go ahead and switch and start using
Switch,
it
you
next
just
year.
wouldn't- You just wouldn't get, we wouldn't start paying on the actual conversion.
Or anything until January. I mean, they've agreed to do that even this year, so, you know.
I'm not gonna convert on it. I'm not looking forward to a conversion. No. It's not something I say, yeah, let's go convert. No. It's more of a, I feel like there's a need.
So when next year, say June, you guys pass to us, then you'd start after that.
Well, yes, once they pass the values to you guys, they would do it.
Because we're getting ready to do that process
They would do it
soon
immediately.
here.
So, I mean, that's up to you guys. That way, otherwise you're sitting there for 5 months entering data that you know is gonna have to be converted, and there's gonna be some issues. The perfect scenario is that. But that's up to you guys. And that, by the way, that's my personal cell phone number. If you have questions, don't hesitate to call me. I'd rather not get them in the middle of the night.
Thanks, Ed.
Yep, thank you.
So do you think we would not act on this at this point, or
No,
or even during the budget?
no.
But you may build it into your budget, so that'll be
Right.
a difference. We'll be seeing.
Yeah. I didn't need to talk to Ed as far as for sure what would be doing payable next year and, or what can get deferred till 24 that I could first put it in the budget next year.
Your service agreement will probably start when you start, right?
Right.
When you pay for the project facility.
So I'd have to figure out what maybe I need to go ahead and put in this year's budget for next year and what can be deferred till 24. So I'm just here to kind of give you a heads up and kind of.
Since I just wanted, it would be a good time to have her come back in, I guess, is what, you know, we will discuss it during budget time, but we're not gonna be able to get involved again. You know, we're probably gonna have time, but then, you know, you ought to put on your, sometime first of next year, then that you come in and talk with us again
Okay.
to see what's changed. Unless anybody's got any other suggestions. Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Because I think that the commissioners approved of.
Well, I don't know if they necessarily approved it. I did talk to them also, and I told them I was gonna come and bring it forward to you guys, just to give you the same information, and they asked me to come back to give them your feedback. It's really just a heads up, for sure.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And I don't know if any of you are going to the county council conference, but if you do, we have a table there. If you got questions, stop by and see.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, thank you.
You give me all the pens.
The representative for standard process.
Fisher Farm.
Fishers, I'm sorry. So
I apologize for being late. I thought it was Wednesday. Leaving.
So could you introduce yourself and
I'm
this,
Diana Fisher with Fisher Farms Natural Foods.
and you're here for the approval of their tax abatement for,
Yeah, I think we had it last year and then we were supposed to come back this year to just run an update of.
why don't you do that?
Well, we moved in, we've been there now for a year. Everything's going well. We've hired 2 new full-time employees and they started a couple months ago. Managers. We've added a few more local suppliers. We're increasing, the area in our networking farmers. We're carrying other products, a vegetable farmer and a mushroom farmer from the Fort County area. And sales have been up. COVID restrictions have helped that a lot. IU's been almost back to normal and back in session, so they're still our biggest customer. And that's going well, and we've been busy, very busy, which is good. I love our new space.
I mean, the open house was great out there when you, it's unbelievable that much time has passed already, but
Yeah, I know.
it's the way it goes.
I think we wish we would have made it bigger.
What did COVID hurt the worst? The college cafeterias, I'm guessing? Because you guys were big with IU, right?
Yeah, the college and restaurants. And I think the restaurants are still struggling with labor and now with increasing food costs. So, but we've, our sales are back up, and I think, like IU said, they're planning on expanding all their summer camps this year, which they haven't had any now for 2 years. I know 1 week they got 4,000 students coming for an acting camp. So they're all go again to try and get all their numbers back up. But I know they're also struggling with labor issues. They had to close one of their cafeterias for labor reasons, but they moved money around. But yeah, like I said, our sales numbers are back up and continuing to grow. We have some things that we're hoping to work on this fall to kind of expand some more. Trying to get like a dry aging room for steaks and things like that. So it's exciting, big stuff.
I think Angie kind of explained to them some of your purchasing of your equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your plans for the next year or so?
For further equipment?
Right.
We're kind of working out what we're gonna do this fall. Hoping to get like a dry aging room, and potentially increase the size of our cooler and our freezer and add on, so. But just kind of wait to see how the numbers go.
Any other discussions? Questions? Okay, so we have to decide, is the property owner in substantial compliance, is not in substantial compliance or others, so I'll entertain a motion. I think we agreed, I thought we agreed anyway, substantial compliance, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this abatement. Okay, Charmaine, on the motion. Sonia seconded, so any other discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you for coming in.
Diana, next year, we're hoping people come in April,
Okay.
so we can do this earlier in the year, so
Okay.
just kind of letting you know that.
Okay, great, thank you.
I guess we're right on time for you.
All right. Hello. Here to, I don't know, several months ago, I went to the commissioners and they approved the purchase of 2 new Dodge Durangos. We finally got the quotes back on them. I think I emailed everybody last week or the week before about what all it's entailed. And I got a couple copies if somebody needs to refresh their memory, but I didn't make 7.
I can't have a copy, I'll take it.
I do.
Can I have to look it on my screen?
Does anybody else need a copy?
So realistically, as it boils down to do two of them, it comes out to a total of 148,915. Obviously, that is not taking into account of the two trade-ins that we would have and any equipment on those trade-ins that can be used again. So this was just, the quote here is just basically starting brand new. We did not get a quote on the trade-ins, because we just didn't know when they would be available, so.
Were you asking to move forward on these, right?
Yes.
Immediately? What do we just need to approve? Does it come out of Q and cap, I guess?
Typically, they do, right?
I'm sorry.
That's what
To
I was just
purchase the
thinking,
vehicle?
it seems like he wants to move forward with it tonight. So if we do that, can we do that tonight?
You can give him a consensus, but we have not advertised for it.
That's what I thought.
Right, yeah,
Are they available? They have them.
yes.
Any discussion on this, or any comments?
Because we really,
So 149, but then some trade-ins and everything else.
Yeah, there'd be trade-ins.
149 is the high end, it's likely to be lower.
Yes. And with these two, that will go exactly what I was been planning on for 4 years, and that's gonna give us 4 vehicles that we use for pool cars, if the deputies have theirs in the shop. Also for transport vehicles, they're all equipped the same, there's in-car cameras in them, no matter where they go, they can just, everything is recorded then. And then as we move on to like next year, if we get 3 or 4 cars, they would take these cars, move them into duty cars, and then replace them with pool cars. So there's always good cars at the pool.
I just want to maybe have an understanding of it. I thought a year ago when we were looking at the budget, we were looking at vehicle replacement of about $200,000 a year.
Correct.
That's but
No, that's what it was.
when you start looking at this, we're going to be $300,000 a year.
No. And the reason I say that, Mike, is once I get these two, and that's what I've been working at, is to get the 4 pool cars that are just like the deputies' cars. So once we move forward into next year, we're just going to replace the car. All of the equipment that are in there can just be reused. Now, occasionally, you're gonna have equipment that's gonna break or we're gonna need to replace. But as we move forward, typically, we're gonna trade a car in, and all that equipment on the car is gonna go into the new car. Does that make sense?
It does.
These two, we don't have them yet.
Okay.
So it's putting those in these two, which, like last year and the year before, we did all that, and we did body cameras when we took out 4 years ago, when we did all that, that's all gonna be paid for. So we're not gonna have that price on them. So as we move forward, these are just gonna be more or less the quotes of the car and not all of the stuff in it.
The outfitting of the car.
The outfitting.
16,000.
Still gonna pay to take it out and move it into a car, but we're not gonna replace it every year or every time we trade a car. Typically, you'll get 2 cycles, so 10 to 12 years out of all your equipment. And that's kind of why we went on that 5-year rotation, is we don't want a car that we're gonna replace next year and have to replace all the equipment inside of it this year just to get through another year. So that's why we stagger them out that way.
What's the average mileage you guys put on a cruiser a year?
Anywhere from 20 to 30.
And where have you found it most cost beneficial to just start getting rid of them because the maintenance is gonna get high? About 200?
Well, no, typically, it's gonna come to a point where you gotta decide, we got 24 vehicles, 25 vehicles that we do, so, do we wanna get into that point where we were several years ago where we replaced 8 of them in 1 year? Or do you wanna get on more of a rotation where you do 3 or 4 a year and still have trade-in value? And that's kind of where I lean to, is to go with the 3 or 4, so that you can budget 200,000 a year for vehicles, instead of 1 year you come in here and ask for 500,000.
Keep it steady.
Yeah.
Discussions? Well, so what amount of dollars do you think we should
I would prefer you just go like the 148, and then we obviously just use what we.
So 148 with the consensus to advertise what we're doing here. For two
Yeah.
vehicles. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's have a show, I mean, is any other discussions? Let's have a show of hands for 148,000 approval. Okay, so it looks like a consensus. Okay, so
So I'll advertise 148,000 from Cume Cap in the June meeting.
Okay.
So you can't purchase until then.
Right. All right, thank you guys.
Pleasure. So I thought you were gonna, Sheriff, I thought you were gonna discuss salaries here yet. No, you're not gonna do that.
No, I was under the impression that this was gonna be before, and I know that you met last Thursday, so I think it was taken care
Okay. All right. Okay, so we're a little early here with our next, we'll just move forward. Everyone's here is, it looks like a Marissa Durkos. Okay, so you're the spokesman for the, looks like there's a lot of people here for this. You're the spokesman for the group?
Yes.
Okay, you can address the council and.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Marissa Durkles. My address is 323 North Trainer Lane, Jasper. I want to thank you for your leadership and all that you guys do for Du Bois County. This truly is a great place to live and raise a family, so thank you for what you do. I spoke at the Jasper Common Council meeting last week. I mentioned the fact that this area is small and everyone knows everyone. That's both a good and a bad truth of a small community. It's bad when citizens feel they can't be outspoken against the Mid-States Corridor because they're afraid of losing their job or might upset the wrong person. So I come here today as a voice for the public. We're done waiting for permission to speak and being provided only 2 minutes for our opinion with a giant stoplight in our face. This council is where decisions are made to use taxpayer money, and we are everyday taxpayers of Du Bois County. I come here proactively instead of waiting for permission to react. If you came here tonight because you're against any more taxpayer money being spent on the Mid-States Corridor and you're for the no-build option, can you please raise your hand? Thank you. I'm speaking for all opposed to this Mid-States Corridor project. For those that just raised their hand, the over 375 people that showed up at Crane, a huge auditorium full at Jasper Arts Center, for those with no Mid-States Corridor signs in their yard across the county, and all those that have signed petitions. Remember, the majority in the Mid-States Corridor public meetings earlier this month raised their hands when asked if they were opposed to the road. They have a voice too, they just didn't want to speak in front of so many people. For all those people, we are going on record with our local elected officials to say we do not want any more taxpayer money spent on any further studies or construction for the Mid-States Corridor. We support the planned improvements to US 231 only, which totals $75 million. We oppose any new terrain highway as a waste and abuse of taxpayers' money, which will end up being all of Indiana residents should this terrible idea be brought to fruition. Preferred Route P has an estimated cost between $735 and $1,052 million in today's costs. I don't even know if I said that right because that's such a high number. That is just for construction costs alone. It doesn't include design, right-of-way relocations, construction management, utility relocations, and contingencies. How can the project office say this is the lowest cost among routes P, M, and O when the type of road hasn't even been determined and the estimate leaves out some very costly considerations such as design and relocations? The next time the Regional Development Authority comes to request more money from this council, we expect our voices to be heard. Mayor Vonderheide told those of us that attended the council meeting last week that it was too early to make any decisions and that they'd wait until the tier 1 final environmental impact statement to see what is recommended. However, the Evansville Courier and Press published an article yesterday in Sunday's paper, May 22nd, 2022, and based on quotes from the mayor, it sure sounds like he has his mind made up already by saying that the road is going to have to go somewhere. I thought no build was still a viable option, as we keep being told, but maybe we're being misled, and that's something I'll get to here in a minute. On October 10th, 2018, Du Bois County approved using $1.75 million towards the Tier 1 environmental impact study and entering into an agreement with the Mid-States Regional Development Authority. I know because I was there to voice my opposition along with 3 others. That's a shame that there was only 4 of us here. There was discussion among the council members that were present that day about phone calls they received before the meeting from constituents that opposed the project, but it got voted to move forward. I'm not gonna ask about possible future funding from this council because it will just be avoided like it was in the Jasper City Council meeting. So unless someone from the council speaks up after I'm done with my comments, then the public can assume silence on the matter means that future funding for Mid-States Corridor Tier 2 study will be entertained by this council after the Tier 1 study is complete. It's a shame we can't put this road to a vote. It was the Senate Act 128 that Ron and Messmer worked on that removed language of a referendum, and that's when it got wide support from state lawmakers. It's insulting to know that our politicians at state level from this county purposely removed our ability to have a voice in the matter. That law was specifically written and edited to allow this project to move forward without public input. It's upsetting to know that the same thing happening to us in Du Bois and Martin County will be happening all over Indiana because of this terrible law. I want to go on record here, like I did with Jasper Common Council, to emphasize that safety was removed as a core goal during the Mid-States Corridor Tier 1 draft environmental impact study. Safety became a secondary goal, and secondary goals are a nice benefit, but they do not have to be considered for the project to be approved. The project office emphasized safety as a core goal to the public in 2019-2020 public meetings. We were misled and manipulated. I would ask that anyone in public office stop using safety as a talking point to try and convince the public that we need this road. If safety was so critical, then it would have remained a core goal. The only thing that will improve in-town congestion, what little we even have, is better traffic management plans, not a new road. A new road will lead to overlooked consequences that may make our roads more dangerous. This road will cut through existing main roads in Du Bois County. We don't even know the plans for stoplights, traffic signs, road crossings. The trucks may get someplace 3 to 5 minutes quicker, but for those of us that have to cross this road every day or be detoured because some roads may not have access any longer, it will be a nightmare. I also want to point out that when this project started and they chose a tiered study, one of the decisions that was supposed to be made during Tier 1 was the type of highway. This was outlined in the white paper to Governor Holcomb and told to the public during public meetings 2019 and 2020. The project office at some point deferred the decision on type of highway until Tier 2. Once again, the public was misled, and by doing this, it keeps the project moving along without actually getting too detailed on right-of-way impacts. Shouldn't NDOT already have traffic numbers that would support whether a Super 2 or a 4-lane highway is justified? Shouldn't the traffic number determine whether a road should be built at all and how big of a road is actually needed? You don't just speculate and say, oh, we need a road, now let's just see how big a one we need. How much did the pandemic influence traffic numbers with more people working from home more often? We don't know the answers to these questions because the project office didn't provide the data. Our taxpayer dollars could be much better spent on transportation options that don't continue to contribute to climate change issues, more drug and human trafficking, destroying forests and farmland, relocating people and businesses, and increasing pollution, making an area with poor air quality even worse. Let's demand that money is spent more wisely across Indiana and especially in Du Bois County. For the record, I'm providing a copy of the Evansville Courier-Press, which I forgot in my car, so I will go get it if I have time. From May 22nd, 2022, where it quotes a former environmental worker assigned to the Mid-States Corridor project who ended up resigning because she didn't want to become another rubber stamp on a project she felt would harm the environment and was unnecessary given its close proximity to I-69 and paralleling an existing road. Opposition to this road isn't just Du Bois County residents that are averse to change. Very intelligent people who are experts in their field outside Du Bois County are saying building new roads is outdated, especially given the threat to climate change right now. Keep researching and you'll find other engineers that realize their detailed plans weren't best for the communities they served. In a GovTech article, they talked to Charles Marone, a civil engineer transportation expert. In the article, he says he isn't against spending federal dollars to repair the infrastructure we have. He's against handing more money over to transportation planners who will always be able to find an excuse to build something new. He's quoted as saying the present system is overbuilt and is going to contract. We have so much transportation infrastructure that every level of government is now choking on maintenance costs. I'm tired of seeing bridges fall down and expensive roads go bad while we spend billions on new stuff we will never be able to maintain. I also found an opinion article from July 2020 in New York Times that's titled Stop Building More Roads. It says most developed countries already have effective road systems. They can be maintained, but the economic benefits of expansion are marginal and the downside is significant. Road construction is environmentally destructive and it promotes urban sprawl, congestion, air pollution, and inequality. And I speak to inequality because of the Amish community that will be impacted in Martin County. That's a huge impact. There are countless articles like these in today's economically disastrous times with gas reaching over $7 a gallon in some parts of the country and a possible global famine, as mentioned in the news recently. Why on earth would we even be studying building a new road to encourage more driving and destroying farmland we will always desperately need? The public is speaking. Are you listening? Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for coming in. I appreciate your input and your research. So, thank you.
I would encourage all of you, if you haven't done so already, to look at the draft environmental impact study. It's very large, but there are some inconsistencies in there. Can I provide all of this for the record?
There's a lot of inconsistency.
Oh, thank you. Who do I provide?
You can give it to Mike, he's the chairman.
So is this the article?
Yes,
So
from Sunday's paper, yes. It's at the bottom of that.
do you want to read it to us? So you want to read the
Oh,
article?
I can.
Why don't you go ahead and read the article? There we go.
And it's on
Pardon me?
YouTube. It'll be on YouTube.
It's person who worked on Mid-States Corridor opposes road. This is in Evansville. When Lee Montano first looked at the plans for the Mid-States Corridor, she didn't know why it was being built. She came onto the project with VS Engineering in 2020 to help hammer out a draft environmental impact statement for the highway, which is expected to run through southwestern Indiana between Spencer County and the Crane Naval Base. According to the impact statement, Montano's focus was the project's impacts on rivers and agriculture, but the road's existence didn't make sense, she said. The Indiana Department of Transportation had just built Interstate 69 near the same area, and the project, was and remains unpopular with residents, especially those who could lose their homes or businesses when the state starts buying land for right-of-way. Every step of the way we looked at this, no one had confidence in the project, she said. We're going to displace people, we're going to move farms, we're going to impact wetlands and wildlife and agricultural fields. And for what? Why are we doing it? Montano exited the project in October 2021 and eventually left the environmental science industry altogether. The Mid-States Corridor, she said, was one of the main drivers behind her decision. The largest reason I quit the industry was I felt like I was not improving the environment, she said. I was just being another rubber stamp in a bureaucratic machine, and I couldn't deal with that. She's not alone in her criticisms. Take a drive through southwestern Indiana, and you'll find yards dotted with anti-Mid-States Corridor signs. Public comment sessions that started after NDOT chose Alternative P as its preferred route last month have attracted scores of angry residents, some of whom have threatened to leave the state if the highway is built. Environmental groups such as the Sierra Club and Indiana Forest Alliance have also come out against the project, saying it will damage wetlands and forests and pump additional automotive emissions into a region that already suffers from some of the worst air quality in the country. Many of the project's proponents have been business leaders or local politicians. That includes Jasper, Indiana Mayor Dean Vonderheide, who told the Courier and Press the road will go a long way towards easing traffic on the semi-laden US 231, which cuts through residential portions of the city. Now that they've chosen a route, the number of people opposed to it has reduced some, he said about Jasper residents. The ones who were adamantly against it thought they were going to be impacted personally, and that's always natural. In a statement to the Courier and Press, the spokesperson for the Mid-States Corridor pointed to the core goals of the project, including making it easier for trucks to get through the area, better connecting small communities to main thoroughfares like I-69, and improving accessibility to major business markets such as Jasper. Reducing travel times is a secondary goal, but according to the impact statement, Route P would only shave off about 5 minutes on a trip from Jasper to Indianapolis. Montano said the road could make traveling through the area smoother, but to her, the negative impacts far outweigh the convenience. Relocations and environmental problems. One of the biggest problems. Some people will lose their land. According to the impact statement, Alternative P, which is expected to follow US 231 from Spencer County before branching out and running parallel to the highway for the 54-mile trek to Crane, could cause almost 150 relocations of homes, businesses, and farms. Right-of-way acquisition could also wipe out as much as 1,832 agricultural acres and upwards of 733 acres of prime farmland. About 900 acres of forest could be affected as well. Hundreds of Hoosiers will see their families' homes, farms, and businesses destroyed, community environmental groups said in a joint statement last month. Project spokesman Ed Green said decisions on land won't come until tier 2 of the project, and that NDOT will use avoidance and minimization efforts to reduce impacts. There is no cost estimate for the project yet. The impact statement also confirms the corridor will increase emissions, but it claims the effects could be minimal because by the time the road is completed, more people will be using electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are slowly gaining market share. EVs, I'm just going to say EVs from now on, EVs do not emit tailpipe emissions. It is reasonable to assume that in 2045, percentage of EVs in use will increase, the statement reads. As to how that assumption landed in the impact statement, Green pointed to the U.S. Department of Transportation's efforts to beef up electric car changing networks. Additionally, most of the major car manufacturers have announced plans to significantly ramp up EV production in the coming years, he said. Montana scoffed at that. When it comes to embracing electric vehicles, southern Indiana could lag behind other parts of the country, she said. I can't just go out and buy a 30,000 car right now. That's just not feasible, she said. And I don't know how many people in southwestern Indiana can do that either. We still need a road. If you ask Von der Heide, the Mid-States Corridor must be built. Some of the project's critics have wondered why the state can't just snag some federal dollars and revamp US 231 since the Mid-States Corridor is expected to run right alongside it. But that, Von der Heide said, wouldn't be enough. His main objective, and that's in quotes, is a bypass around Jasper. The city has an enormous number of feeds onto the highway, he said, that includes several driveways, forcing some residents to back into traffic with poor sight lines. It can be difficult to see a semi barreling your way. We still need a road, specifically for semi-trucks going around the city as opposed to through the city, he said. US 231 goes right through the middle of town, and that's where our traffic congestion is and where the safety issues are. According to project documents on the Mid-States Corridor website, NDOT has been studying ways to reduce traffic and improve safety through the Jasper area since at least 1993. One of the several options that cropped up over the years was to build a bypass around Jasper and Huntingburg off US 231. But Green said easing congestion in that area is now just an extra benefit of the Mid-States Corridor, not one of the core goals of the project, as I mentioned earlier. And as far as reducing crashes, the Federal Highway Administration didn't find sufficient evidence to include that as a core goal either, the impact statement says. Still, Von der Heide sees the benefit of a new roadway connecting more people to I-69 and Crane. We're also sympathetic to anyone who's going to be impacted, he said. You wish you could build something like this and it doesn't impact anybody, but the road is going to have to go somewhere. Comment period extended to June 14th. Lee Montano always jokes that the only person who loves Indiana more than her is Leslie Knope, and she's a fictional character, she said about the Hoosier State-obsessed lead of the TV show Parks and Recreation. That love is what has Montano so worried. She's afraid the Mid-States Corridor will be detrimental to many of the things that make Indiana ecologically unique. Abundant farmland, karst regions, and beautiful forests. She rejects the state's belief that the Mid-States Corridor will bring new businesses and new residents. Making any economic predictions is almost impossible after the pandemic, she said, and taking care of the farmland the road may pave over would do more for the economy than any highway, she said. NDOT recently extended public comment on the Mid-States Corridor through June 14th. Montana wants people who agree with her to see what's going on in their backyards and realize they have a voice. Unless something miraculous happens, she said, this project is moving forward. That was long.
Thank you for reading that. Then it's on the copy of that.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to read it.
Does any council person want to make a comment?
I guess I do. So when you talk about my silence, do you have a copy of what you read to us?
I don't have it, no.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So you're saying my silence is, you have an outcome based on my silence? Is that how I understand it to be?
Well, without you all coming out publicly and saying that you don't want to use any more taxpayer funds, then yes, we kind of assume that it will be entertained at a later date.
It'll be entertained, as in, okay, so you don't know my decision. You've never called me or had a conversation with me, so you don't. Okay, I just want to make sure that because I feel like you're attacking me a little bit here, because I didn't tell anybody where I'm at. I had a few people call me and I've given my opinion.
Why can't it go on the record? Why can't we say publicly how people feel?
Well, if that's necessary at some point, but first of all, I think my decision right now is that I'm listening to all the information that's given to me. Until I have to vote on it, then I think I'll wait till then. I don't want to go too early because I want to make sure I gather all the information out of respect to both sides. I think that's a fair assessment. I don't think that's, but I don't think that my silence is.
I didn't say you'd be making the decision. I said that it would be entertained.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understood, I misunderstood what you guys said that. I apologize.
And I think, I've already gone on the record back when we ran 2 years ago and in the forum discussion, whatever it was, saying that I would support improving 231, nothing else. That's what I thought we were originally gonna happen when they first started talking about this, and that's what I supported. And that's what I still support, if the 231 would be improved. So yeah, that's my stance, and I've said it in the past, and I say it again, so.
Thank you.
If you guys haven't listened, there's an audio file from their meeting they had at Jasper, and their speakers forum again, it's really insightful, but what I can tell you is, no matter how much money you have or don't have a constituent, I'm gonna listen to them, and we all pay taxes, and it'd be a tough sell for me to spend any more taxpayer dollars on this. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate everyone taking their time to come in and you know, expressing your thoughts to us. That's what we're here to represent you. So, you know, I appreciate it. So.
You know, when I showed up in 2018 and there was only 3 other people, I was shocked because I don't think people really understood what was happening, honestly. I think more people would have been here if they would have understood what was going on. So that's why I just wanted to be proactive and get on the agenda and say how the public feels instead of waiting until that time.
Can you tell me, do you remember what year Governor Daniels told the money for the improvements that were on the table? Do you remember that?
I would have to research that.
I think it was the mid-2000s.
When?
The mid-2000, like 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there.
I think you're right.
And the reason I say that is Martha, I know Martha was the auditor and she was in office from 2000 to 2007.
But I think originally this was portrayed as something that was gonna be an improvement to the current infrastructure, not an addition.
You're probably
That's what
right.
you're
I
trying
think it
to-
was that time period, because when the
Right.
recession hit, you know, the 2007-8 recession, and it all got pulled off the table.
And I'll also say that your group, whatever happens, you handle yourself very well. You present yourself well, and you're articulate, and I think it's commendable what you're doing, no matter what happens.
Thank you. What were you saying, Doug?
I think originally when it was presented to us, it was presented as an improvement to current infrastructure, leaning more towards an improvement as what's turned into. I think that's what was kind of portrayed, at least that's what I understood when the decision was made originally.
Well, I appreciate having more of a conversation here.
Yeah.
Well, I think we were all disappointed that so few people showed up. It was like,
Yeah.
must not be a big deal then. I mean, it truly, we were all kind of rocked.
I
Yeah, we
debated
didn't-
getting on
I don't think
Facebook
we
back
originally-
then, and I just did recently to try and, get the word out. But yeah, I debated back in 2018 getting on Facebook just to blast something out, but I didn't do it. I regret it.
What was that article, so I can cite it in the minutes?
You can, we can look at that.
Current press.
It's the Current Press Sunday edition. Like she
That
says,
was on Facebook. I read that.
Is there a title to it?
it just says,
Is there a
person
date?
who worked on Mid-States corner of
Oh,
Moses
yesterday.
Road.
Pages A1 and A2.
Person who worked on Mid-States corner opposes road is the article. And saying if you want, you can take this and then you want to put something in the minutes.
I just want to cite it, so.
And I realized when I was reading that there were some typos, so can I provide another copy for the record, or would that be okay for you? Okay.
Yeah, why don't you?
I mean, I'm not going to put it in the minutes verbatim. I'm just going to cite the article.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming.
I think others, want, I guess for voting purposes maybe, want to know the stance from everyone, how they feel about using or, entertaining more funds.
The face of the council is going to change for one thing, before this even comes back up to us.
That's true. Yeah, because the final impact statement, I guess, isn't gonna be due until
gonna
the
be-
end of the year or early next year.
I personally haven't read that, I haven't had that opportunity to read the whole report. I was gonna download it and try to take the time. It's been pretty hectic here, so, the other things we got going on, so.
Mhm.
But, I kind of echo what Craig said, I like, weigh both sides a little bit more here to understand it, what they're doing it, or what they're willing to do.
Right.
And we have not, at this time, we have not been approached on any type of future funding for tier 2 or anything. We've not, at least I haven't been, so.
Like the civil engineer that was quoted, when you take it to a transportation department, they're always gonna find ways to approve, building more things. So I would just encourage you guys to look at the pros and cons of building new roads, and just do your own research even outside of the draft environmental impact statement to know what might be best for our community.
Well, what is your stance then on the improvements that Holcomb is hoping to
Oh,
make with
yeah,
231?
We support those.
You do,
Yes, absolutely.
because that'll be minimal
Impact.
impact on.
And we hope that after those improvements are made, some of the congestion and issues why this was originally brought up may be resolved. Don't know for sure until that's done, but again, they took out safety and crashes and that sort of thing out of the core goals of the study. So honestly, they don't even really have to look too much more at that going forward when they took it out. So I feel like that was very misleading to the public. They got up and told us in 2019, 2020 that one of the reasons they were looking into it was safety, and then they took it out. So,
Well, thank you again.
thank you.
Appreciate it coming.
Thanks for listening.
There is a meeting, did you tell?
What?
The meeting.
Oh, well, yeah, there is a meeting on Wednesday in Lagodi at the 4-H fairgrounds that Senator Messmer, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Represents.
Senator Messmer,
Um,
Representatives Bassler.
Dazzler and
Shane
Lindauer will be there, I guess to answer questions and concerns.
So it's 6 p.m.?
6 p.m. at 4-H
Fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds in the community building.
Thank you.
Wednesday.
Thank you.
So the next on the agenda here, I think, is resolution 2022-08, for the community crossings matching grant.
The community crossings matching grant has to be matched 25% of what we are awarded. We were awarded $497,150.52. We have exhausted the previous fund that we used, the special fund that we used for revenue. So now we're going to be using the motor vehicle highway restricted fund. This fund shall be subject to the same appropriation process. Upon completion of the road preventative maintenance projects, any remaining grant funds shall be returned to the grantor, and remaining local matching funds shall be returned to the motor vehicle highway restricted fund. It would be resolution 2022-08.
We have any conversation or questions or discussions?
Okay, real quickly, the amount that's given there, 497,150.
52.
That's the 25% match?
No, that's the grant that they awarded us.
Okay, that's the grant.
Now, I know that 200,000 is more than 25% because Brent wants to make sure there's enough in there in case there's any change orders and anything
Okay,
that.
for the full project?
Right, to pay for the project. They don't want to run short or have some kind of issue and then not be able to do the project.
Okay.
I think it's the DuBois area, DuBois Road and the Stein Bottom.
Yeah.
That's the two that this was awarded for. So any money that we go over and above, they'll return the state their money and they'll return everything else back to when these projects are finished. Because this is the second community crossings that we've gotten. We got the first one, and I forget what roads that's doing, but this is the second
Okay, so the full
application
amount-
for the year.
The full amount will cover those
Right.
projects there, okay. That's the total amount.
Okay, so we have to adopt this resolution, so does anyone want to make a motion to approve this resolution? Or
That we approve resolution 2022-08.
we got a motion.
I second.
Becky seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is the additional appropriations of the general fund for the veterans services of $3,200.
I think I sent out an email. We sent out an email. The current veteran service officer, Susan, was told she would get $17.98 per hour, but our salary ordinance says $15.53 per hour, which is the difference of $2.45. She signed off on that offer letter and she was expecting that, so I reached out to all of you. The difference for her would be $2.45 per hour. If we go back to her first date of pay, which was April 29th payroll, we'd owe her some back pay. And then for the 17 payrolls left in 2022, the total that we owe her would be, or could owe her would be $2,077.65. Also, the previous VSO worked with her for 3 weeks, so we need $1,118.16 to cover both salaries for the 2 weeks. So I'm asking for an additional of $3,200 just to make even in, because it's pennies, and that means $3,195.81. So I made it $3,200 to make it even, so we didn't have to advertise for pennies. If you're
And
all,
he is gone, Gary is.
he's done.
Okay,
He was done April 30th, I think.
okay, so he had a couple of weeks, but.
So he trained her for 3 weeks. So that's where we have an overlap, and we didn't have that in the budget as well. Now, he got the $15.53. I don't know what happened with the difference, but the award letter, so.
That's a salary ordinance also that you're gonna have here.
Correct.
I mean, you wanna discuss that a little bit more? I know we sent that out, it kind of got approval by your vote. So does anybody have any questions or, I mean, I've seen the letter, like you say, I mean, seems like a legal contract to me in some ways. When Human Resources has a letter offering a job for this amount, and then both parties sign it. I don't know what, that's what makes me feel we have to do this almost.
I think after investigating a little bit, he called over and said, "What's Gary's salary?" We have more than one Gary.
Pardon me?
We have more than one Gary, and I think that's where the problem came up.
Well, and just after, looking through what other people make, I don't think the rate that she's getting paid, the proposed rate is unreasonable at all.
I think it's in the range.
It is in the range. I mean, well, okay, let's go back. Okay, so veteran service officer, weights and measures, those are all like part-time department head type things, and we don't really have anybody else to compare them with. There's out of the 224 full-time positions we have, there's just nothing really like them. So they got put in the special category. So there's no real range there. So we're not really within the parameters of falling within a range.
Just still got, I want to point you out, but I mean, you did have questions. Do you want
I mean,
to
we
make
just
any
didn't,
comment or?
we just didn't discuss it. That was my main issue. There's no discussion whatsoever. It was just, this is what happened. Let's just change it right now. I think it deserved a little more discussion because of the.
We have not paid her the increased money.
Well, I know, but.
We didn't
it was
want to
already
keep her
decided.
on and then say, well, you're not gonna get it, and then lose her now, or have her walk out.
Right, that's
I'm
kind
still
of.
gonna go back. There was no discussion about it all in the email. It was just, this is what's gonna happen. Let's vote on it and go forward. That's just kind of my impression of it. So that's why I just voted for, I guess I said no, I'm not gonna support it at the time. So that's why I was,
The email was just to get a consensus to whether or not to advertise for it or not, so. I mean, we could always say no.
it's already advertised, it's already what we were discussing. My impression was to approve the consensus to approve the 1798 to pay, and then later on make a full motion and all that stuff, I guess. So that's just
I was
where I'm
hoping,
coming from.
okay. I was hoping that you didn't take it that way. I guess the way I phrased the email, I was just trying to put the facts there. I didn't say you had to vote one way or the other.
Well, but then later on that day, you said there was a general consensus, so we're gonna move forward with it.
Well, I mean, I was waiting for that so we could publish. I think there's a deadline on publishing.
Because
You mean-
if we don't make a decision,
I
on something, there's
understand
a
that.
whole, another whole
But it
month.
was
that
during the
she's-
workday, it was just a matter of a couple hours, and
Well, I
some
did,
people have to work during the day, so.
I hope there's no misunderstanding there, but I mean, I wasn't forcing anybody. I wanted to leave the facts out and you still have an opportunity here to
Still vote
vote
against it.
against
I
it.
understand, yeah, and
And that's why I thought that to advertise it, we weren't promising anything. We were just saying, we'll vote on it at our next meeting. Otherwise, it would have been another month out. And I thought she was my understanding was she was pretty discouraged when they said, well, you won't be making this. Well, I kind of don't think that's fair, really. I mean, if it would have been way out, like, another $10, then yeah, I would have had to vote against it too. But here, it's reasonable, and we've had a tough time maintaining a VSO,
Now,
So,
with this discussion, we did get some money from the community foundation for a support staff, and the commissioners are looking at possibly approving that. They have not created it yet, but they are looking at the need for a job description, the wage scale, somebody to work with her, maybe 15 hours per week. So that's another thing that we can consider for that position.
we would still have to approve this, right? I mean, to approve that expenditure if we do
Correct.
hire another part-time. So any other comments on this? Otherwise, we're trying to additional appropriation for $3,200, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make a motion that we accept that additional appropriation.
I'll second that.
Craig seconded, so all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, Doug's opposing, so it's 6-1. Okay,
And just to comment on that, I think she needs some time to get into the job to see if she needs support staff. Because all the directors before her didn't. And Love was a different kind of worker or whatever, but it doesn't mean she's gonna be like that. So I think we just need some, we have a history, so let's see if that was just an outlier or,
thanks for those comments, because I kind of think that's the way the commissioners feel too. They don't want to jump into something, they want her to come back and say, because it's not catch up to, until you analyze.
Now, I know they said, the commissioners have asked her to come back to the next meeting with a job description, a wage scale, and a work They want him to work with HR to see if there's a need right now. So it's not a done deal yet, but I wanted you guys to know it's on the agenda. So,
Okay, next.
okay, so. So then I did have a salary ordinance changing the VSO from 15.53 to 17.98 per hour. It will be retroactive to her date of hire. She works 24 hours per week.
So, again, this is an amendment to the salary ordinance. Any discussion, any additional discussion, I guess, on this? It's kind of the same thing we just covered.
I move that we approve it.
Okay, Charmaine, any motion, we have a second? I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Probably went out of line. Sorry, Mike.
Sorry. Do we want to, the next one is capital outlay for the greater stuff we discussed? Last month.
The next two, I have the highway equipment, $266,655. We put the highway grader with the highway, the steel for the Packmore body
Okay,
that goes on that. We have them together.
so that change would be, it would be an additional of 266, 655.
655.
Yeah, 266, 655. Okay.
There's 3 6s in there.
Thank you.
Okay, so any discussion on that? I think that we went over that pretty well last month with Steve Burke, the new grader and the steel increase. So, is there any discussion on that or? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Doug's made a motion to approve that. You have a second?
A second.
Alex seconded. So any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The next one is the 42,000 for the server. I discussed that earlier, that
The switch.
we had to get the core switch for the county. It's gonna go out of life in July. I've already been notified. It's been back ordered again to August, so good thing we did put it on order. Hopefully it'll get here and they'll keep supporting us. I mean, it's not going bad. It's not like it's having problems. It's just if it would go bad after July.
Okay. Do we have any questions or discussions on that? I think
This is for the whole county, correct? This is
Yes,
for
the whole county's
switch.
tied through this switch.
So hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept that computer maintenance switch.
I'll make that motion.
Hold on a second.
And Becky seconded, so any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The courthouse fountain maintenance is a fund where we get money from the Community Foundation Endowment. Once a year, they fund us with money. That money can only be used to maintain and service that fountain. There is some issues going on with it right now. Scott thought $2,000 would be enough. However, there's a leaking problem in it, so they're trying to talk about maybe what do you do?
Resurface.
Resurface or
Yeah.
do
Reseal
something
or
to it. So I did put 2,000 on here. He found out later we're probably gonna need more, so next month I'll be back with the remaining balance in that fund, which is $4,965.75 that we'll be asking for next month, if you're okay with that. It only has one purpose, so, and the funding is there, so.
So just approving the 2,000.
We are just doing the 2,000 tonight. I just wanted you to know next month I'll be back for the remaining balance, because they're still trying to find out what's going on with it. It's not holding water very well.
Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve that $2,000 for maintenance of the courthouse fund.
I'll make a motion.
Sonia has a motion to, and you have a second. Alex seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The health department filled out a survey and they were given a grant for $1,000 for completing that survey. In that grant, they can only use it for personal services. There's not really anybody you can pay $1,000 to, so Sean kind of decided to do some training over lunch hours and give the people comp time for that time to spend down that $1,000. So we did an addition, we did the appropriation for the 1,000 out of personal services, and then I also have a salary ordinance to pay that out. So
this is a grant?
well, the state intended to give it to them as a reimbursement for filling out the time and put it in the health fund. Well, it's federal dollars and you cannot do that, so the state board of accounts kind of got involved and said, no, you have to use it for the intent of the grant. So it's hard to come up with what can you do with $1,000, so.
Makes sense.
Just comp time then.
It's
Don't
just
do
comp
it
time.
pizzas and donuts.
It's just no, they can't do that. It's just, they have to, and Sean said they're gonna have 2 trainings for lunch hours and they're gonna bring in their own lunches and eat it during the lunch. I said, now you can't have somebody leaving an hour later to go to lunch. It has to be true. You're working through your lunch for this. So that's what he's decided to do.
Doing the lunch awards.
To catch up on, I think they want to do universal precaution and I forget what other training.
We got.
Any other discussion on this $1,000 personal services?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Doug made a
Well,
motion.
I guess we have 2 of them, right? 'Cause it's-
There's 2. There's the additional and then there's the salary ordinance.
He's made a motion, this is personal services. Doug made a motion
I'll
to
second.
approve it. Charmaine seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I think the state had good intentions, Department of Health had good intentions, but they just didn't.
Right. So you get to read.
Okay, that's all the additional appropriations, but then we gotta go to the amendment to the salary ordinance.
I have a salary ordinance to pay out comp time at their current rate of pay.
Okay, so there again, it's $1,000 to total. Anyone want to make a
I'll
motion?
make that motion.
Craig has made a motion to approve it. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Sonia seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I didn't catch the first.
Craig and
Craig.
Sonia.
And Sonia. Okay.
That's all the additionals and stuff that I have. So the next thing on our agenda here is budget preparations. I guess part of that is salary increases. We have to kind of say, or tell each department head. So I guess a couple things before we get into that. And I know this is off the subject, but a little bit. But the, no, let's touch base first on the balance of the edit fund. I had asked Charmaine and Craig and I, and Sandy sat down and just had a little discussion on, balances of the funds, or a couple of the funds that affect us here. And I just, because I was very concerned, on our money we appropriated for the city square improvements. At that point, our balance was, I thought was fairly low, and that's what we had those discussions at the city. I don't know, the current balance in the edit funds appears to be, Sandy furnishes a 6.8 million. Now, that's probably uncaptured or unappropriated money. So I feel we are in better shape than what I had anticipated. And then we do have a $1.5 million returning to us in November of this year from the airport loan. So that would go back into the edit funds. So we are better than what I had anticipated. I don't know if Craig or Romaine, you want to comment on that, or?
Well, and then the other thing too is the 6 million that we have set aside for the jail construction.
And that's what I was going to touch on here a little bit with the changes.
Whatever doesn't get, if we don't touch that, all of it's going to be released back. What's the term for that? Just roll back into.
It'll roll back to the fund, not.
Right. It'll just be unappropriated money again. It's appropriated for now, so it can't be touched, but if it isn't spent for the intended purpose and the project ends, then it just reverts back into the fund. As if it were unappropriated.
And that's the part I was going to touch here. Last Wednesday, Chad and I and Sharman continues to with the people that's construction managers on the job. We kind of went over during the bid process. The general contractor, the mechanical contractor, the electrical contractor all had built-in contingencies, and we went through and. There's been a lot of them used because of, I guess I'll call them oversights of the plans that the architect maybe had made that he didn't put this line in. Some of the stuff didn't work. We had the storm sewers. We had to add an access drive and storm sewers to the back, and there's quite a few different changes, and those all come out of this allowance. And what we went through is we took the allowance and I guess in short terms, the allowance remaining to get the project completed is around $540,000. So when we get into community corrections, they anticipate a lot of unforeseens. But we still have that $500,000 that we could be paid for other changes. And then in the contingency part of it, we had put 1.5 million in there as a contingency when we got the bond issue. And we have about $605,000 left in that contingency. And a big part of that expenditure was really the 911. When we decided to move 911 there, that came out of the contingency. So I can get into more detail. I've got the sheets here, but that's in, I guess, short terms, that's what it is. We still, overall, we've got $1.1 million yet that we could have issues, or if we want to do other changes,
That would absorb the expense of the changes or unforeseen circumstances, like you were talking whenever we met Thursday. When they get into revamping the sheriff's department, they might run into some things that.
Underfloor stuff that's not, nobody knew anything about, or, and there is I hate to call them mistakes, but there's things left out of the plans that, to make it operational, we need it, you know? But I think Commissioner Blessinger is talking to the architect to see if some of that could be maybe covered by them. You know, that's, they're usually their comeback to that is saying if it would have been on the plans originally, the owner would have paid for it in their bid process. The bid would have been higher. So, it makes sense. So, and then this.
So there's no kind of error and omission kind of.
They say that comes only if, I mean, I brought that up to it, and they just said that it's only really in case they misdesign something. Let's say they design some steel bar joists or beams or something, and they're not capable of carrying the load, and it fails, then they're liable. That's when that would come into effect. It's not really things, you know, they leave a sink out over here, they forgot to specify a sink. Well, the plumber wants to get paid for that. You know, they have the plumbing there, but there's no sink specified. So that's just one example. So, any questions on the, I think we feel good, I think both, and then on the other note, I did bring this along, and you know, for your reference, if you want to look at it, just glance through it. But you know, the communications director had asked, you know, she's bringing on these additional people, and she needed more offices. So her
Communications.
Community corrections.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said,
Communication director.
communication.
Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry. But anyway, I'll pass these around. I highlighted the change in yellow that we put, like, there was 4 offices, and now there's 5 offices. They made them smaller. And here they reconfigured this, and there was only 1 office here, and now there's 3 offices. So she's got additional space to put her personnel.
She looked first, that's kind of small.
So, but that was that, and I'm pretty certain that is included in these allowance balances. That was like $68,000 to make those changes. So
One thing that was the tower for EMA.
that's that is, some of that is in here that we could. Some of it is not. That's just a change. We're really waiting for the costs, but it's all set. You know, it's all set in motion.
Wasn't that tower originally in there and then they took it out? And then when they figured out that it actually needs to be in there?
They originally thought it could be on the tower that they moved, but it's too far away.
So this is a smaller tower, you know, that's going to be closer to the EMA area.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's like the signal can't.
Yeah, there's certain requirements they have to meet,
Right.
and yeah. But that's what we had our EMA meeting last week.
Oh, did you?
Whatever she kind of went over, it was originally in there, it wasn't, and has to be in there because of certain state requirements and all
yeah,
that other stuff.
probably the architect should have maybe had it.
Yeah, I don't know why they took it out, but. It was-
Well, I think where the tower used to be would have been, but then when they had to move it or something like
Moved
that.
it, then they didn't consider that or take that into consideration. So anyway, these ones too. This one didn't change. This is the way it was originally. It's hard to read.
Did the airport get the loan?
They never came. They have until November,
Okay,
but it's finished in November.
because I
So
ran
they
into Phil Snyder.
they have not.
Well,
They thought a few times they would, but they never have. So
so their money must be coming in.
well, they could come next month. I don't know. But we will be paid back in November, so it's not an issue for next year.
It's a short-term loan at this point, then anyways, if they need it.
Right.
If they come tomorrow, then by November.
We paid back in November, so yes, you're correct.
Anyway, moving on to the, what we have to consider here, I guess, is any kind of pay increase we want to give. I had asked Sandy and I mean, Brooke came up with it, but the same thing she had done last year. But, you know, what each, you know, we have 226 full-time employees now. 226 full-time.
It kind of fluctuates.
Okay, that's okay, 24, okay.
Well, it's plus two, that's constantly get a translator and a,
Oh,
And the help
okay.
coordinator.
All right,
that's, I mean, we added
there you go,
those into
yeah, all right. No problem.
So, I don't know, we wanna start out with anybody? I mean, in our discussions, we only looked at the budget and this and what's out there. So, it's really open, I'll open the council for any kind of discussion if anybody's got ideas. And that is a good point too, that you brought up earlier, not maybe with the whole council. On the last page of our budget book, there is the history of our wage increases. So maybe if anybody doesn't have those, I can go through them real quick. On 2015, we had a salary increase of 45 cents for full-time per hour and 25 cents for part-time. And then in 16, we gave it an additional 20 cents an hour for full-time and both full-time and part-time. In 17, that's when we had to freeze. We didn't give any raises. And then in 18, we gave a 40 cent an hour raise for full-time and 25 cents an hour for part-time. And then in 2019 is when I think it was when the salary study went on, and that's kind of, it's hard to say where, because we included the raises in that study. And then in 2020, we gave everyone a 2.5% raise. And then in 2021, we gave a 1.5% raise. And then this current year, 2022, we had given a 3% raise. So that's kind of the facts at this point. So anyone want to start off?
And we don't know the growth quotient.
I will not receive that until July.
That is so hard. It is so hard to make a decision when you don't have all the information. Like, what is our revenue going to increase to cover this? I mean, I guess that's where we can give guidance. We will have the growth quotient numbers by August, and then we can always change it if it's lower than what we're anticipating.
Has your growth quotient not been consistent in the past 4 or 5 years?
It goes by, you do a 6-year look back, I think it's non-farming revenues, and it fluctuates. I mean, I've seen it as high as 5, I've seen it as low as 2%. When those lower years, like when the recession hit in 8, those years stuck on there, and now they're finally off. So we are back to maybe 4%, but I mean, it's an estimate, I don't really.
Right, and then the tricky thing is.
And then you got the pandemic in there.
Well, the tax caps too. I mean, if other, if people reach their caps, then that.
Right.
Cuts.
And our
off
caps
revenue.
are higher this year than what we anticipated. So that's money lost, because when you hit your cap, you don't pay. So we absorb that. Now, we did just learn that we're going to be getting a surplus on our lit. That should come, I think it's coming tomorrow. We have to distribute it by June 1st. So that may help, but I think it's going to offset each other. So it's just, it's hard to know right at this time.
It's my preference. I'll just be the first one to talk, I guess.
There you go.
I'll just get out there. Okay,
Bring it around.
I would like to propose 3%, and then if the growth quotient isn't where we think it is going to be, put it that way. We can always go less, we can't go more.
You're correct.
We can't say, okay, we're gonna give guidance to give a 1% raise, and then be like, oh, well, it's forecasted to be better than we thought, and then we can't change that.
It's better to go high and come down than to go low and can't go
We
up.
can't go up.
Well, and I was thinking along those lines too, I was like 2.5 to 3, depending on some of that stuff, but to see the high, and the department heads know that when they're working, that come budget day in August, that may come down, but this is what we're hoping for.
Yeah, just because you vote on it tonight does not mean it's a given.
I'm not opposed to that, I guess. I wanna make sure that I understand what our plan of attack then for the growth quotient, where does it have to fall to be at 3, and where does it fall if it's less than 3? I guess I think that's important, so that I understand. I think that way, so that way it justifies what we're saying, right? I just wanna have that information.
And then when do we know the circuit breaker cap? That's a lot later, isn't it?
After you calculate taxes.
Right.
Last year they proposed, they give you an estimate of what they think it is, and then when you calculate your taxes and do the abstract in the spring, we do it in February, March, that's when they know the actual numbers.
See, so we don't even know until 9 months later.
I know. And he was telling me if we have our operating balance high enough, he told me, look at our operating balance, say you're losing 300,000, and if your operating balance is $1 million, you can absorb that because you'll just have less to operate, but you still can absorb it. So you want to keep your operating balance.
Anybody got a crystal ball?
I mean, last
believe in that stuff.
year, we, when we, completed, when we finalized the budget there, we had moved almost $3 million out of edit.
Out of county general into edit. Lit ed.
How many full-time did we add in this last year?
Quite a few.
Well, there have been quite a few, and that's the thing that really, when we're adding on those positions all the time.
Look, but that doesn't mean, I mean, if we're talking 2%, we're talking 263,000. So if what it costs for each employee is, 75,000. I mean, with benefits.
Yes.
Well, I'm estimating around 15,000 for health insurance like I did earlier that's an estimate. It could be as high as 17, 18, it could be lower. It just depends on our costs because we're self-funded.
So you want to say anything? Or?
I was initially thinking 2, but thinking we could go up since we can, as I would be more comfortable with 3, and if we need to adjust down, if it's not feasible, I would rather do that. Because I worry about the inflation, like I want to be fair to the employees, but yet
You have to pay
be
the bills.
responsible, yes, we have to pay the bills, exactly.
We can't be like a manufacturer or, a retailer. Well, we'll just increase our prices.
Exactly.
We can't do that to increase
Our
revenue.
income is what it is.
It's fixed.
Yep.
Not unless you have some big benefactor out there who wants to start giving us cash.
We say that, but assessed values went up big time on property taxes, so actually property tax revenue is up a lot.
Okay, yeah, explain
Okay.
how this works, because
We have a tax levy. We can only increase that by the growth quotient. You can't just raise taxes to get higher. And if you do, they cap you at that. So if your assessed values go too high, they're gonna hit the cap and they're not gonna pay.
That's what Mitch Daniels.
That's the 1%, 2%, 3% cap, circuit breaker caps. So if you do raise it, they won't let you go over your levy. Our levy's 8 point some million. We can't go higher than our growth quotient.
so what they do is they take the levy plus the growth quotient and then divide that into your assessed valuation, and then you get your percentage. Your rate.
It's kind of to hold you so you can't just raise your taxes unlimited. You're held to that levy limit.
Don't you want the
Well-
public to hear this? Because people still think we just.
Well,
I do hear a lot of people go, well, we'll just raise taxes to cover it. You can't. You are capped. We're capped at that levy limit. And I don't have the number on me, but I think it's 8 point some million.
Is that
Now, the
Yeah, no,
only,
that does help, because I get a lot of calls complaining about it, I'm like, hey, man, I don't know, assessed value, I know it's capped, but I don't know
now,
how.
a lot of times when your assessed value goes up, your rate comes down.
Well,
So,
some people complain about their bill, but I live in Southwest School Districts, we had a referendum that voted for school improvement and then
Right.
increased their taxes too, so.
now your
That's
referendums
part of
are
it.
kind of outside of
Yeah,
that
they
cap.
definitely are.
Let me look here.
That was a big increase for a lot of landowners, so.
Our max levy is $8,035,732. Now, you do get credit for, Southern Hills is outside of that limit, they give you credit for that. And mental health, which would be SERS for us, you get credits for those. So you do get those credits, but that's it, if they're in your general fund.
So it's likely then, since the assessed values are going up, that the actual rate will drop.
Hope so.
Now, sometimes your rate can drop, but your assessed value went up enough to make you have an increase. I mean, I've seen that too. And we share the rate, that levy with rainy day, which we don't have a rate for, general fund, reassessment, local road and street, Cume Bridge, health, planning, Cume Cap. That's it.
And the thing is, if you notice the Cume Cap's getting really lean, then you would have to reallocate some of that to that instead of.
Well, your Cume Bridge and your Cume Cap are rate-driven funds, so those rates pretty much stay the same all the time.
But like, okay, so health is.
So your health fund, if your health fund is dipping down and needs money, you put a little more levy to that one and you take less into something else. Planning, Region 15. If they want more money, you're gonna allocate more to them, you're gonna take less from somebody else. Park and recreation, general fund, planning, those health, those are the ones you kind of manipulate. Your local road and street and your highway are in there, but they're gasoline tax money. That's not property tax money. Does that help?
Yeah, that's,
When people tell you just raise them, you can say, no, we cannot do that.
yes.
Just like the cap's so weak.
Yeah, the circuit breaker caps, the higher values get, the closer we're gonna get to having more people hit those caps.
Yeah, that's complex.
I think we proposed for just the general fund, the cap would be almost 300,000, and I know actuality, it's probably closer to 350 or, so we exceeded what we thought.
I think 3%, I mean, inflation's out of control. I don't know if the federal monies are gonna keep coming in like they have been, but, cost of living is crazy, 3% minimum for me.
And that's, you know, I'm thinking on both sides, like, yeah, it costs so much, like I drive to Washington every day to go to work, and I'm like, the price of gas is just going up and up and up and up and up, and it's just cost of living. But then again, we have the money, so it's a balancing act that we get to tightrope walk on, not giving all the information. Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, at least 3%.
Now, one thing I have to commend the county department heads, people don't really spend money they don't need to spend. A lot of the times, we budget for X dollars and we roll back.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes it's $600,000 a year, sometimes it's $1 million just in the general fund. That helps us, because that goes towards the next year.
Yeah, that'd be really.
I mean, we really have good department heads that don't just blatantly spend every dime you give them. And we've never had that in my 20-some years of doing this, so.
Yeah, I will say that they're really good about trying to save as much, or trying to get as much back, and trying to get as many grant dollars and reimbursement dollars from different places.
I mean, just speaking to the sheriff, you know, he knows it's not gonna cost him $148,000 for those two vehicles, but because they're so good at not spending every last penny because they have it, you know, we can just, yes, we know that it's just
We
gonna
trust
go
that
back.
he's gonna
Honor that.
keep it as low as possible and not.
I mean, that just speaks to that. You know, that we don't have to.
Now, your
do the
grant
exact
dollars,
quote.
you wanna use more of your grant dollars and you wanna use all of your grant dollars, so. So I'm hearing consensus.
Well, at least I'm gonna say my
Yeah, Mike.
piece here. I was thinking of honestly starting lower, because I think it's harder if we do 3% and then we have to pull it back. I just think that, I don't know, I would rather pay it forward, honestly. I would rather, I mean, my goal would be 2 or 2.5%, honestly, so, but I'm odd number here anyway, so it doesn't. But that's my thoughts. I just don't, I don't like the idea if we give 3 and then we gotta say, well, it isn't gonna work. It's gotta go down to 2 or 2.5. That's my thoughts. So.
I know
And
historic-
I agree with that. I think if we give them all the information, I mean, if it's predicated on that information that we'll get in November or August, then.
Yeah, I think they'll understand that
Yeah,
this
then
is
I
what we
think-
want to, but if the money's not there,
We'll
can't. I mean, it's
Right
not.
now, she's
I think
impossible.
historically, in the past, even when they gave flat raises, they would say, budget for this, and then sometimes you got it, sometimes you didn't.
Because I think I've got to dig way back, 7 years ago. I mean, I think that we didn't decide until the actual day of. I don't think we gave them really
Correct.
much guidance at all in May. I don't think we gave them the courtesy of having guidance in May.
Right.
It was
Well, I
just-
think they would say, give
Just-
people, put in $800, and then
And it
on
also
that day,
has-
they might say, we're only giving you 500, so we would just
I remember
adjust.
changing it. I mean, I think
Yeah,
I
it
really
hasn't
remember
really been a
changing that
percentage
at least
that-
1 or 2 years.
It hasn't been a percentage till like the last couple of years too, that, it makes.
That 1 year that we didn't do it, we saw.
I think the first 2 years.
Now, I remember back in, I guess it was 2007 or 8, when the recession started, they proposed a raise, and in September, it was like, we can't do this, so they cut it all out.
Well, any other discussions, I think we just have a hand. I'm gonna, first ask for, let's start with 2.5%, I'm not in favor of 2.5% to start off.
I like that number too. I mean,
Like, do we just keep going?
Well,
Well, we're gonna go
Just
higher,
decide.
we're gonna go higher,
Okay.
if we can't get it.
I think what she's asking, can you roll?
Can we
Yeah,
go twice?
or, are we saying getting consensus and going
Oh, we
higher?
have 2.5, 2.5, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3.
Yeah, we should auction this off.
I mean, you wanna start at 3%, that's fine, dude. I just wanted to start low and go high. It doesn't
You
matter.
should start at 2.5 and then do 3 again. If 3 fails, then you all know the 2.5 pass solution.
That's kind of what I was after here. Just see who is in favor of 2.5 or have them advertised for 2.5. So we got 3 people, right? So who's in favor of doing 3%?
I think that's a good number too.
So,
I didn't realize we could vote multiple times.
I voted 6 to 1.
so it looks like it's 6 to
We
1.
normally send out the budget information to the department heads on June 1st with the forms and tell them they have to have it back by July. So, we'll put in there that they should budget for a 3% increase.
I mean, that's what I see.
Um,
So that's easier.
My next question would be, do you want us to try to put everything back into county general and then we'll move it out as?
Let's try it.
Let's do that.
Let's do
That
we
seems to
kind of
be the
keep track
best way
of
of
what
doing
we're
it,
actually.
right?
Hmm?
That seems to be the best way of doing it.
I think it
Yeah,
is,
it's
because if it can fund it,
Let's do it.
if it can support it, we'll just know. I usually have the budget meeting in August, hopefully before, but sometimes it's after, and then we'll go from there. We probably won't adopt until the end of October, so we have some wiggle room in there.
So now how are you gonna treat the insurance without knowing that number to tell them to count what?
Well, the insurance normally is in the commissioner's budget, and I think it's a 200 and some thousand, 2 million something. So we'll put that back into their budget. And then the insurance will kind of tell us a trend of an increase if there's needs to be one. It's just hard to know. It's hard to know who's gonna get sick and how many sick people we're gonna have.
Okay, so we got that settled, like you say, with 3%.
We have not received the probation's minimum salaries yet, so they'll have to go by their minimum salary. I did send to you the sheriff. He's based off of the judges, percentage of the judges, and so are these guys back here. So I did send that to y'all, but we have it.
Right.
I just looked in the budget book, health insurance, 2.25.
Okay. I knew it used to be 2 million, and I think we raised it, so we'll see where we're at when the commissioners do their budget in July.
So, do we want to talk at all about the sheriff's proposal? Or there are a few of us that are meeting to just discuss the possibility of a deputy retention plan. If you want to save that and ask him detailed questions about that there, then, since he.
Well, at this point, he had put the letter out or the email out, and we had 3 volunteers in here. It's Charmaine and Craig and I volunteered. And then I had to ask the sheriff if he would approach Marky, because Marky's got the experience with retention and with this job and his previous jobs. So Marky's is gonna be there. And I did not, he came back to me and asked if there was any other private sector or anyone else that I would want to board, and I didn't think I could limit anyone else at this point.
I'm talking about the jailer's salary.
Oh, that's.
Since he kind of.
He didn't do it tonight. I was ready to discuss that a little bit.
That's what I wondered, you guys talked about that he didn't bring it up.
No, we talked about budget numbers that day. I think he was just under the assumption that since a couple of us talked about budget numbers, it was.
I think he misunderstood.
Well,
When
he got on my agenda, he said salary, so I don't know what changed.
Right, okay.
Well, there's 2 different salaries that we talked about, right? Like the stair step for the
He
jailers.
would like to propose that.
And then, what's the other one? There was that study, or the group for retention, that was, had to do with jobs and salary and stuff like that, so that may be.
I thought sometime we get them to a point that when we say across the board, they're included in that they don't come back with their own
Well,
schedule and stuff.
can I ask this? Okay, so if I'm part of that group that's gonna meet on Thursday morning about the deputies. Since we weren't able to talk about it tonight, does anybody have specific questions that they would like to vet the sheriff on his proposal for changing the jailer stuff?
I copied this. This is what he emailed to us. Did you have that?
I have it, but I don't have it.
He's just asking that stair step of 3%, I thought. But then when I checked those, it doesn't, some of them seem lower than what they're getting paid
I
now.
couldn't figure that out.
Right.
That's why I was gonna question it.
Well, and that's kind of how it was last time, though. It was an average of like a 3%, but some didn't get that 3%. Not the jailers, the deputies. That's kind of how, just to make it so that he had to go from someplace, I think, the last time, and I think that's what he did this time too, somewhere in the middle. So that some did, but some didn't. And
It's kind of, it's gonna be hard to cut somebody's salary though. The way he's got that proposed. He's cutting.
Were there any that were cut?
That's what.
That's what it looked to me, and I'm like, this is not.
That's-
But why are they not included with everybody else? When we get 3% or a 2.5, they get it too.
They are.
He wants to stay in that, but he wants to structure it different to begin with, so he's got that spread in there, is what I understand him to say.
Can I write on this?
Pardon me?
Can I write on this? My writing's not as nice as yours.
thought, is it the position or is it the person? But I saw some of those numbers were down.
That's, I mean, I looked at it, I mean, and so I just put it
Is
aside.
is
because
it some of them, the position with
Yeah,
a ranking?
It's rank. It's the chief jailer and then the shift jailer.
Jail commander, supervisor, yeah, he has.
I
it
thought
as
the
rank.
jail commander was supposed to be equal to the lowest deputy. And the matron, they're supposed to be equal to the
I think that's probably.
lowest deputy. At least that's how it used to be.
See, I was assuming that he was gonna come in here tonight with a plan, you know. for us to
Well, this,
review.
yeah, I think he wants us to decide, this is his proposal, he wants us to pick one. Pick one. Like the lottery, isn't that a lottery? Pick one.
Well, truthfully,
Pick
he
something.
should, I mean, I think he should present it as a board, not your little committee
Right.
for approval.
Well, he sent that to everyone, but we haven't acted on it, so. But, why is 3% a magic number anyway, you know, is it, you know, if there's a 2% difference, that's my thoughts, but.
Yeah.
So,
I think
why don't we,
the 3% has everybody, that no one losing, no one going backwards, that's,
okay,
you know, that's what I kind of, when I compare them, it looks like no one goes backwards from what the 2022 budget is.
There's a step missing in there, though. He doesn't have the assistant chief jailer.
that's what I thought too, he was missing someone there.
Assistant
Well,
chief.
I wonder if we could ask him to, you know, next time he comes in, to just ask him, I'd like to see names behind all those people. You know, because I don't know.
I don't have it, so I can't help you.
Pardon me?
I wasn't included, so I can't help you.
Well, I mean, he just lists positions, but you know, who is the jail trainer? I mean, it doesn't say that on our budget. It doesn't call out a trainer.
I didn't know we had a trainer.
I think that's something he would like to create. You know, I think that's a step in there that he would like to add.
Another position?
Well, not
No,
another position, it's
just
just.
another rank.
Something
Another
that's
rank.
dedicated more to a veteran officer that's, or jailer that's.
I'd sort of like to know what each one of these positions, because he pretty well explained last year, he went through the deputies and the different training and classifications and awards and everything.
And maybe he ran out of time to do in preparation. I thought, well, I didn't talk to him about it, so.
Because I mean, right now, there's the probationary where they just first start, and then I don't know for sure if it's a length of time or training that they go through to become a second class officer, and then they get bumped up to just jail officer. And then outside of that, there's like a couple of supervisors, shift supervisors, 2 of them. And then there's the assistant chief jailer, and the
Well, my, kind of getting to your question, like, I mean, isn't there a lot more turnaround? You know, a lot of these jailers or whatever move on to deputies, so there's a lot more turnover, yeah, sorry, I couldn't think of the word turnover for this, so that's probably why he doesn't put it in, because there's a lot more motion in changing parts, I'm guessing.
And then you know, a person that just comes in, or a jail supervisor, or a jail person, and he moves up, you know, he's a trainee and all that.
Right, and then that,
I mean, it makes sense.
I think it's a certain amount of time plus also certain training or something.
Yeah. It's just internally, does he get, you know, like, let's say a deputy makes, well, he does have someone making more money. Yeah. And then he's got the 3 of them at the bottom here. So.
Are those like the sheriff deputies?
No, these are all jailers.
Okay.
These are all jailers.
Okay.
See, I think that he's.
Second class or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no probationary in our budget book.
So you wouldn't be a probationary very long, we could, so it would change, to your point of view there.
Yeah, so it's not like a whole year, I don't think, for a probationary
Well,
person, so
the
it's
thing
not
you'd
like
have to do is when you budget for what the highest they can be that year. If they're probationary, you just pay them less, but you can always,
pull them up.
but you don't wanna budget for a probationary and then them get pulled up and then you don't have the money.
And that's why there are no probationary ones listed, because they're always gonna move up into second class at some point before the end of the budget year.
And usually on the salary ordinance, they'll have how many pays they're at this rate, how many pays they're at that rate, so we know.
Well, would they be moved by the end of the year, depending on when they're hired, they may not move up to the second class till after the next.
Well, I mean, if they're
Budget cycle.
probationary for 4 months or something, if he's budgeting in August, by the end of the budget year.
Yeah, because there would have already been someone
Or
who's
if it's 6
higher than
months.
that quit, that we replaced them halfway through.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Even if it's a 6-month probationary deal, they would still, no matter when they start, there's the potential that they would still budget for the
Or,
second class.
or for that year, someone who was already in second class quit and was replaced by it. So it was already budgeted for the other person, yeah.
And sometimes that happens, you budget for the high class, the first class, and then you start back over.
And then
That money's just sat there, it sits there.
So what are you thinking that we should say something to him, or?
I might call him tomorrow and just say,
Yeah.
we need more info.
Okay. That's fine, why don't you do that? Then we, in June, he's still got time before budget, we bring it in here in June. Okay. Is that, anything else? And the only thing I wanted to, for the ambulance that we had budgeted $350,000 for, and they did get bids, and it was for, came in at $318,974, so I think we were happy about that. They only had one bid.
However,
How are they rejected?
they rejected it because it didn't have components, there was things missing, so they had to reject it, so they're gonna rebid it out.
Okay, I didn't see that.
So on the minutes or something, I read it, I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
did I read that right?
Okay, so they-
Yeah, it was missing 2 or 3 things that it was required to have, so they have to rebid it.
So it doesn't exceed our budget. And then, I have like I think someone mentioned, there's county, the AIC County Council meeting is in Bloomington on June 24th and 25th. So if anyone is going to that, it looks like Friday afternoon and Saturday all day.
Was it always in the past?
It's been different places. It's been, I think last year I missed it, because they didn't say anything when it was, and it was.
It's usually on like a Saturday.
Yeah, this is Friday and Saturday.
The state called meeting?
Yeah.
I think a few years it was always in that same
It used to be on like the Shelbyville side of Indy.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Last year, I think it was further north or something.
Yeah, I think it was too, I don't like.
Wasn't there one year that the three of us, Becky, wasn't there one year that we drove somewhere? It took us forever because there was road construction.
Oh, yeah.
We had to go down, oh, yeah, that was
Sorry.
was
And that
horrible.
bridge was out, you're like,
And then the road just stopped. I was like,
oh, it's gone.
it detoured us here. What the heck?
I have not been given anything either, so I would have said something had I known, but if you want me to sign you all up or whoever wants to go, I can do that, but.
That's really close to Katie's due date, so I will probably say no. I won't be able to go.
I mean, it is a 2-day deal there. So,
Yeah, she'd kill me.
I mean, I was wanting to attend. That's why I brought it up. I think I had an email it's been 2 weeks, but you probably since I've had that email that I do want to sign up and I can get with you. What else is?
I think I'm gonna sign up also.
I'll probably go too. No one misses Celestine Fest, so we'll be coming home early Saturday.
There you go.
Now, I mean, I can sign you up for the actual AIC class, but you guys gotta kind of get your own hotel and then let us know so we can cut checks for you to take along.
And make sure they know about the tax exempt thing.
What you do is, you make your reservation, give me that so we can give you a check to take along, and then we send along the tax exempt certificate with it, and they'll usually write it off.
Okay.
If they don't, then you pay it on your credit card and give us it and we'll pay you back.
Then there's, okay,
So-
that's good. So sign me up at least. Yeah.
Yeah, we guess they had a holiday, and I just let me know if you use my number. Yeah, the points for it.
There's a special, I think there's a special rate on that as well. And then you have to have, it has to be in by a certain date here.
Right. So I'm gonna link that to you all. If I get information, I can kind of send it to you through.
So our next meeting's on June 27th at 4:30. So anyone else want to discuss anything else? Any other discussions on anything?
Did we set the October, we set the meetings after August? I didn't bring my
For
calendar.
August? I
The
thought,
29th?
yeah, I thought we did.
To the end of the year we did?
July.
No, not to the-
No,
I don't have
just
anything
through
on
August.
August.
Next month is the only one on the all the way.
August
We have
20
through August.
August 29th is the meeting got set for August.
Yeah, August 8th and then August 29th.
August 8th is the day-long budget.
Yeah, the budget.
We start at 8, we go till whenever we get it.
It's like the most wonderful time of the year.
Yes.
It's like Christmas.
It's a gift
That's why we're-
for dividends.
It is?
Would you-
So August 29th is a regular meeting. And then September,
We haven't
We
set,
haven't said,
we
yeah.
want to set them for the rest of the year.
The 26th.
October, you'll have to have the budget adoption. I don't know if you want the 24th or the 31st. It has to be done by November 2nd, I know that.
We better do the 24th, so we leave ourselves an extra week in case something happens.
Right. If you do the 24th, we'll need a public hearing 10 days before, so usually we do a Wednesday evening, or we can do Monday or I mean, it doesn't matter. As long as it's by the 14th, before the 14th of October.
The 12th.
And we usually do later in the evening for public, so
So September is what date?
26th?
26th? Does that work for everybody? And then, October, you're saying is
The 12th would be the public meeting. I mean, that's what we're going with.
October 12th is the public meeting?
That would be at 6 PM, because we make it later, or if you guys can do what you want. Normally, in the past, we've made it later so public can come, that doesn't really come.
So,
Well,
it's
I'm
6
gonna
o'clock.
be on fall break that
Let's
week.
accommodate. We'll make the attempt, right?
And then,
We may, I mean,
so 6 o'clock, okay with everybody? Is that all right?
I just have to make sure I have
Make
four
it
people.
That's what we normally
Just
do.
need
the
it
12th of
more, yeah.
October. I'm on fall break all week that week, so we may not be here.
That's if you make it October 24th.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually like a 15-minute meeting.
Okay, so October 24th would be again at 4:30? Okay. And then November? 28th is the last Monday of the month, November 28th.
Well, we usually go backwards on it because of when's the last day for December? Does she need to
Well,
have?
it used to be December 15th was when the last day you could do additional appropriations.
So that's,
They may have changed that, I'm not really sure, I'd have to check on that. And then we usually have the last, so you'd have the meeting like early December, but then you'd have late December for a final transfer kind of date.
So what day do you want to have finals?
So we're closed the 30th, so 29th would be our last day. December, well, I gotta look at, the 23rd and the 26th were closed. So it'd have to be the 27th or the 28th.
can we do it on a Wednesday, that 28th?
I would really like that because I have a little girl at home that's gonna be 14 on the 27th. Ooh.
And that would be your last meeting.
She would be really sour if I was there for her birthday.
That's your last meeting.
Yes.
that's-
So we could,
So 28th on December, So we'll come back to.
First one of those we had in the morning.
It was 1 o'clock.
You've had it in the morning and you've had it in the afternoon.
But that usually depends on when you need us to.
What's your preference?
I think last year we did it at 1 and it did work out.
At 1?
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. 1 o'clock then.
So did you want to
I mean,
try
fine.
December 12th? The only thing about that is, if we have to get it to the paper, we have to be at the paper before we have the meeting in November.
So do we go back?
But that's okay, because we have to have it's just the way we have to advertise, you have to have it 10 days before the meeting, and you have to have it almost to the paper another week before that. It's just,
Well, do we want to meet on the 21st of November or the 14th? Just shorten it up, because there is that extra Monday in October. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's an extra Monday in October.
21st, you're saying?
that would, oh, I see what you're saying.
You know, so there's the same number of weeks between a meeting would be the 21st of November.
That would space you out a little bit more. I mean,
Is that all right with everybody, the 21st of November?
It's the Monday before
Well,
Thanksgiving.
It's the-
Check it out.
Alex, you okay with the 21st of November?
As long as I've shot a deer already.
Another deer slayer.
so then December 12th,
December 12th?
because if I have to have them there by the 15th, that's my option. If not, I'll let you know we could go a week later. I mean, I just don't know that yet.
So tentatively,
What time on that?
They'd all be 4:30.
The 28th is, we're gonna do, of December, we're doing it at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, October 12th to 6 o'clock.
October.
No, December, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, Wednesday.
it was the early one in the month for the,
October 12th is a public hearing. That's at 6 PM. December 28th is at 1 PM in the afternoon. That's the final meeting of the year. Everything else is at 4:30.
Okay, so you'll put that in the minutes and then we can all. And
Now, I will not be here for your July meeting.
Okay, that's the one I was doing.
Sure.
So you're not gonna be here in July.
And so who will,
We'll figure that out yet.
how's the new girl working out?
Brenda's working out really well.
Good.
I don't know if I'll have Lynn here or Brooke here or a combination of both. We'll discuss that yet.
If you keep the agenda.
I will try.
Then it won't be so difficult.
just like to see what comes in, right?
I don't. Does anyone else have anything to discuss or?
So you're gonna put all those times and stuff?
I will.
So,
I will.
Is this worth reading?
Does the public have anything to say or?
You said everyone did get one, right?
Yeah, the Latinx
Yeah.
survey results.
It's really great, 155 people took the time to fill out a survey, and then, Sustained Inclusion, or, not Sustained Inclusion, the, Payroll, Community Rural Engagement Division of IU, they put it all together, and it looked really pretty and everything. It's a nice snapshot, or a small portion of the county for that trans population, so if you do have 10 minutes to read through it, it's really good information, kind of, just highlights what the people, the Hispanic population of the county kind of, what their needs are, what they kind of needed some help with in the county. But it's just a good piece of information.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, who was that?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
second.
Alex seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
You're gonna get an opposition for.
What's that?
Adjournment.
I don't have time to eat there, but I'll buy it, and then I'll get it expensive.
Doing your notes.
That's not-
Okay.
Tax